Hello! Happy holidays and happy new year. We are back over at the Tetracast. This is episode 328, the first podcast of 2024. Over here, being recorded on January 5th, 2024. We have moved on from 2023, and we're starting fresh again this year. And boy, oh boy, there was a lot of things that happened in between the last time we recorded to now. Just to recap very fast, the last time we recorded was like early December, I believe, and then the week after we did our big Game of the Year podcast deliberations, and that's after that we usually take a break for several weeks until the new year. So, and apparently December was filled with a lot of news too, because you had the Game Awards and all that stuff. So we've got a lot of, bit of catching up here to do and kind of talking about it.
I believe our latest Tetracast normal episode was December 3rd, so it's been more than a month.
Yeah.
Yep.
So joining me is the usual crew. I am your host, Josh Torres. Your usual host, Bryan Vital. Lee will be joining us shortly. He's kind of running a bit late, but he'll be here. As for the meantime, I'll be here with you along with Adam Vitali.
Hello.
James Galizio.
Hey, folks.
And a sort of sick Chow Minvu, so be easy on him today.
Yes, please.
Yeah, he got sick over the holiday break, and we wish him well. Take it easy, Chow. We love you. So this will be mainly a news-focused podcast, obviously, because we've got some catching up to do. But in the meantime, we obviously played some games here and there over the holiday break, so we keep it a little bit brief for this section here. For me, in between the holidays, I've started Dave the Diver. That's kind of been my kind of go-to game to relax here and there. It's a nice, chill game, and I don't know why it has the RPG tag on Steam, because it's not really an RPG, but it's a nice, fun time. I've also been messing with the Tekken 8 demo. That's been great. And I kind of most recently started playing my 3DS again. I don't know why. I kind of started replaying Project Cross Zone 2. I don't know why I got the feeling to do so, but I kind of played a little bit of that. I played a little bit of Crimson Shroud, which I never did before. That's a really cool RPG. And there was this fan translation of the Lost Planet spinoff called EX Troopers that I started, messing around with very briefly as well. So, I've kind of been all over the place and not really committing to too many long games because there's enough long games coming out this first half of 2024. So I've kind of just been saving my energy slightly for the bigger games yet to release. Adam, what have you been playing over the holiday break?
Yeah, so usually over the holidays, I visit my parents for like a week and a half. I don't have a Steam Deck, so I can't bring my PC with me. But one game last year that I never got around to because of other reviews and other things was The Legend of Zelda Tears to the Kingdom. And so it was a perfect holiday Switch travel game. I put like 80 hours into it, and I feel like I'm only about halfway done. And, I really like the game a lot. We talked about it over on Game of the Year. It won our award for Best Design and Immersion. By the way, if you want to check our Game of the Year stuff, we're not going to recap it here. Go check the website. We have it all listed up there. But yeah, I really enjoyed the game. What else is there to say about it? I feel like obviously the Ultra Hand mechanics kind of unlock another level of creativity and another dimension of, gameplay to everything. And then there's a bit of polish elsewhere, just in terms of how the story is structured and things like that. So, a really, really solid game. I like it quite a lot. There's a ton to do. It's one of those games that it's so easy to get distracted. You set your sight on one thing, and then there's like a million things pulling you in other directions. Like, oh, what's that? Or I want to do this, or this person needs help, or here's a shrine. It's, it's very cool in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you mentioned, like you said, all of our Game of the Year stuff is up on the site, but not just our picks for the year, but also what we're anticipating the most this year, and also what our readers said. What did they vote for? We have a separate feature on that with all the results of what you, the audience, what were your favorite games of last year. James, what did you play over the holiday break?
I played a bunch of stuff. I guess the main ones were I finally played through the rest of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. I put up a review for that since I figured, well, we should have put up a review earlier in the year.
I think like a lot of us just like who originally initially played just like wanted to play it for fun and like there's
Well,
no
also,
professional obligation to like do it.
Yeah.
But it's just
also
like
there weren't like review copies for it, and if you
yeah.
remember
Yeah.
correctly, it was kind of announced and released very suddenly. It wasn't like a shadow
Yeah.
drop, but it was like within like a week or two, I think.
Yeah, no, it was
So
a week. I remember they had it as part of like the Nintendo Direct. They said, "Oh yeah, it's coming out next week." It's like, what?
yeah, I remember it was like April, and we were all in on like Zelda mode because Zelda was coming out next month, and I had fully expected, okay, we're in Zelda mode now, and Xenoblade DLC will come later, and they're like, nope, DLC is before Zelda, and it was like,
Right.
what? We weren't
And
expecting
it's
it.
like a decent size, like, and calling it DLC
Oh, yeah,
doesn't
it's
feel like right because it's its own game. It's like a
Yeah.
completely unique map. It's got its own mechanics. It's basically Torna, if not a little bit bigger. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I enjoyed that. I played a bunch of other smaller games. I did finally get through Metroid Prime Remastered. The big one I played at the very end of the year, the last game I finished in 2023 was Bayonetta Origins, which I mentioned in my top 10 list that like Nintendo just randomly sent us a code on launch day and like nobody else wanted to play it. So I fully intended to play it last year, just took longer than I expected with how packed everything was. That game is really great. It's probably my favorite Platinum Games title, and I was not expecting that going in. It's kind of a shame. It feels like that game kind of fell under the radar with everything else that came out last year because it's absolutely one of the year's best. And if I was gonna say if you have a Switch, you should pick it up, but realistically, like 90% of the people listening to this podcast probably have a Switch, so pick it up. It's really good. You don't have to play any other Bayonetta games to enjoy it. Just yeah. But yeah, a bunch of other smaller stuff that maybe I haven't written about, but I that those were the main things. Those were the main
Okay.
things.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's yeah. The Bayonetta Origins was like I remember at the time like some like the people who were like playing it like really dug it. So it's cool that you got to check that out. I didn't get to check it out myself yet. Maybe I will eventually, but you know, well we'll see. We'll see. There's already enough things to play incoming, but yeah. Chow, what have you been playing?
So I've been playing Granblue Versus. I got
Okay.
4 different characters to S rank now. With
Okay, I'm at 3. Yeah, I did play a lot of Granblue versus as well.
I have made a commitment with my friend that we're gonna get to level 50 in the Fall Guys mode.
Oh God, good luck, Jesus. I like how's the population for that Fall Guys mode these days? I heard like last time I heard it was kind of dwindling. I
It
don't
is
know.
kind of dwindling, but if as soon as you finish a match, you queue up again. The match go by pretty fast. But there's a trophy that comes with it, so we're like, all right, we're doing this.
Yeah, I've been playing. Yeah, not necessarily the Fall Guys mode, but the actual. I like booting that up and like playing on ranked like with a new character here and there. So I have like I put Nier, Soris, and Anila to S now, and I don't know who I'm gonna do next. I was thinking about Narmaya, but she's a lot of effort. I don't know. And then I tried Metera because I used to play her in the old one, and I was like, oh no, she feels like way too fucking effort.
Oh man,
In
that's
this
too
one
much
too.
Galaxy Brain for me.
Yeah, Metera's way too much effort. In this
It's
version.
kind of hilarious. Nier has a 2-star ease of use, and Materia, I think what was theirs? I think it's like 3 stars. Nier is like piss easy. They should just give that 5-star for a puppet character.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they have. I guess theoretically, it might get a balance pass next month when 2B of Nier Automata fame comes out.
I hope they do it after a major tournament. Don't patch the game
Have
with
I
it.
not do it yet? Okay, you might be right. I'm hoping. I don't want it to be as infrequent as Street Fighter, but I don't want it to be as like often as like as a NetherRealm game.
Yeah.
It's kind of in a weird spot where like I don't know exactly how often they should do it because right now, as things are, there are some things that need to be tweaked, but not necessarily like overhauled. We'll see. We'll see. Anything else you want to tell us about?
And then there is Tevi. I'm not sure anyone heard of
I
Tevi.
did play this. This is the from the makers of Rabbi
Yeah, yeah,
Ribeye, I
yeah. It's
believe.
like a Metroidvania.
Yeah, I played this
I
on
was playing
Steam
this
and
because
Xbox.
a friend was giving me shit that our site did not review this game, and she's basically said it's like the best Metroidvania in years.
I mean, we're not a
And
Metroidvania site, but I guess we kind of the lines between what like is an RPG and isn't an RPG is like very weird, right? Like because some Castlevania games like Symphony of the Night, we kind of consider an action RPG because it does have the stats, it does have the damage numbers. There is an RPG gameplay progress to it. You are manipulating stats to get stronger as Alucard. So
Yeah, so I know several people who kind of define it as the Metroid component of a Metroidvania is like the
Right.
exploration, backtracking, upgrades to like get to new areas sort of element of it. Where the Vania side is like the RPG side, so like stats, levels, progression. So it's sort of these sorts of like side-scrolling games. It kind of is like a decision made on like the balance of those things. If there's a significant Vania component, the progression RPG stuff, we sometimes cover it, but if there's not, we may not. So it kind of depends.
yeah, it gets us. But I definitely know that everyone who picked up Tevi, I've heard nothing but good things. And even the demo that I played was like, this
yeah,
feels
it's
pretty
fun.
cool.
I think the only like downside to this game is probably the main heroine. I think she's too bratty, kind of thing. It's like I know everything. It's like don't try to correct me.
Yeah, stuck up, stubborn, right?
Oh,
Okay.
it's like that anime
They're
trope
just
of the
that
character.
they're
That's
just
so
setting up the
perfect.
character to fall later, right? That's
Yeah.
what I assume.
That's what I think too. Yeah.
And then another game is like I'm just diving old classic PS1 games again, which is I'm playing Cartia. I'm not sure any of you
That
play
sounds
Cartia.
familiar, but that's not a board game, is it? Or I'm thinking of
No,
something
no, it's like a
else.
tactical strategy RPG like Final
Okay.
Fantasy Tactics and Tactics Ogre. It's from Atlas, and they have Yoshitaka Amano as the main artist of this game.
Okay.
It's like you think that he's stuck with Square products, but no, this is the Atlas product.
Yeah, I don't think I've okay. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of this. Holy shit.
But I actually loved this game as a kid. The gameplay has not aged well, but I love the story of this game because
Mhm.
like the way that the characters interact is like every time you beat a mission, you'll see this character having this entirely long inner monologue, which they kind of like inter their inner struggles. They try to explain what their problem is. Like one of the scenes, like this guy confessed to this girl, and the girl basically spent like this entire chapter like monologuing, saying it's like, should I just give up being in the army and just marry this guy and just have a peaceful life instead? Like it has like that kind of stuff, which is kind of like I like about this game.
Okay, I just learned a really fun, crazy fact about this game, like skimming through its Wikipedia page. This game, Cartia, Atlas USA originally released this game as a Blockbuster video rental exclusive, and it was released on retails 10 days later. So this was only available for rent 10 for its first 10 days in the US. That's crazy. I don't think I've ever heard of that.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
No, this game's great. I'll give it a more lengthy talk about it in a different podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Damn. We're a Blockbuster. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've never heard of that. Cool. Yeah, I want to check it out eventually. I don't know when. Eventually. Yeah. So that's what we've been up to briefly over the holidays and over our break. Um, we also have a few article shoutouts you want to mention here. During the TGA week, there's going to be more as we go through some games, but James went out and got to check out some Day of the Devs. And one of the games that he wrote up about on the site is Hermit and Pig. He in his headline it's a cozy mushroom obsessed RPG with a twist. Do you want to say anything on it, James? Here,
So I played a couple games at
Yeah.
Day of the Devs. The two main ones I wrote about were Hermit and Pig, and also another one I forgot to put a link for in the document called Cryptmaster. I'm gonna only talk about Hermit and Pig because Cryptmaster, the demo that I played is currently available on Steam. You can just download it and play it if you want.
okay.
So not too much reason to talk about. It's a neat little like dungeon crawler with like a kind of typing of the dead twist, but
Okay.
that's all I'll say about that. Hermit and Pig is I know people really kind of throw around the whole it's an Earthbound / Mother 3 inspired RPG like indie RPG all the time. This one you just have to look at some of the screenshots and it's not even, you can tell that's exactly what they're going for. Like the first screenshot in the article is like, yeah, no, they're not hiding what their inspiration is. But so I played a little bit of the demo. Obviously, the two main characters are a hermit and his pet pig. They both have these beanies on. The two really like standout things about the demo and the game itself, and sorry about the audio there, I just realized what that was, is pretty much all of your items are different types of mushrooms, which I can only assume that somebody on the development team is very much into mycology, because there's just so many different types of mushrooms you can pick up that have different effects.
Nice.
And the way you attack is a bit different in the sense that there's a timing aspect of it, where if you time your inputs correctly, you deal extra damage. There's also like when you're being attacked, you can time a button input to defend better, to take less damage. But also, there's different types of attacks that you have, and the way that you use them is that there's different inputs for them, like a fighting game, and different enemies will be weak to different types of attacks. So, for example, the mini boss that I faced in a demo was a turtle, and the best way to deal damage to the turtle is to stomp on it. So that's a specific button input that you want to use. So, again, with Day of the Devs, and I guess with any RPG, it's kind of hard to get a huge grasp about how a game's going to be in the long run, but what I played was interesting, and it certainly is. I'm definitely curious to see more. I'll say that much.
Okay. And also, quite some time ago, the embargo on this just recently lifted, but Cullen from our site got to visit New York City to go check out Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And this was the first time he's been to New York City. And I kind of like his preview because he kind of, it's like a mix of a game preview with like almost like a travelogue. And he titled it like a Dragon Infinite Wealth has me feeling like a tourist. So it's making his experiences with him in New York City and his time with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. As we know, Infinite Wealth steps out of Japan for the series into Hawaii, and he got to check out several things over there. Would be Honolulu, Dondoko Island mechanic, and of course sometime in a Jin show and a special boss fight challenge. So if you're curious to read more about Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth and what you can see there, go check out that preview. And also, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is also coming very soon at the end of this month on the 26th. So it's just right around the corner. Almost there. And then the rest of the articles will come across them as we go over news for the relevant game. The first one we'll mention here when it comes to news catch-up is a surprise. I think this was revealed in the Game Awards. Square Enix announced a new mana game, a brand new mana game. It is called Visions of Mana, and it is releasing in 2024 for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series, and PC. Adam, you and I are big Mana fans. What did you think about this Visions of Mana announcement?
So, first of all, they had already kind of pre-announced this, that they basically said several years ago now, we are working on a new mainline Mana game. And so we knew that this was coming, but obviously this is the actual official unveil of the game. I mean, it's got that Mana art style and coloring, and it's got the same artist. I forget the artist's pen name. Hakan, yeah. And it's very colorful, very kind of, it's got that sort of cartoony anime vibe to it. With that color palette, it looks really, really nice. I'm not sure if we know who's developing this game yet. That's kind of a weird thing with Square Enix, is sometimes they aren't very forthcoming about who developers are.
Yeah.
It looks a bit like Trials of Mana, only the remake. Only
higher
maybe
budget.
yeah, it looks higher
Yeah.
budget than that. That was done by the name escapes me now. They just did Paranorma Site. One
Right.
second.
Oh gosh. What was this?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I need to get back and finish that. God. But yes, following up on what Adam said.
Xen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Following up on what Adam said, I do remember that prior to the Legend of Mana remaster coming out, there was a stream that they had where at the very end they did mention that they were working on the new Mana game. So that would have been around 3 years ago that they said that. So I guess that was an early development at that time, like probably right after pre-production had ended and they were just starting on like the actual development of the game then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, a lot of key staff from the Mana series are involved with this games. You have the series composers Kuda, Sakito, and Yamazaki
Does
on
it have
it.
Kenji Ito?
He's on the SaGa game.
Yeah, he's on the SaGa game. They have Airi Yoshioka as the illustrator coming back for this, and then of course the Masaru Yamada is the producer of Visions of Mana. So,
All right, gang. One question. Is this the first game that has been what's the best way of putting this? This game is conspicuously absent for a specific platform. Have we had a Switch 2 game self-announced with this? Because there's no way in hell this is not coming to a Nintendo platform.
I don't know. Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, like, there's a couple of other Square Enix games that never did. Like, did Valkyrie Elysium ever come, or Star Ocean?
Well, wait. I'm trying to remember. Remember Dragon Quest XI? How they accidentally announced a Switch version?
No, Dragon Quest XI was announced for the Nintendo NX before anything else.
It was the first game ever announced for it.
Yeah, they probably trying to prevent something from that happening again.
But I do think it's very possible that we're in the zone, we're in the time scale where some of these games that are getting announced now might be Switch 2 games, either at launch or eventually.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, obviously, the rumors of the Switch 2 have been circulating for forever. So
yeah,
at this point, it's all it's just going to take is like Nintendo saying we're doing it, or we're like, keep on waiting. We'll see.
Switch.
Anyways, it's worth mentioning that this is like the first brand new Mana game since everyone's favorite entry, Dawn of Mana.
Yeah.
Or first brand new console Mana game.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. There was a couple of DS games. I played all of them. And then there was like that weird like Rise of Mana mobile game, which I never played.
Right.
I don't think that exists anymore. Was that a browser game? I don't even remember. But anyways, like this is kind of a revival of the series in a way. I mean, I know there was Trials of Mana, the remake in 2020. And that was a pretty good game. Maybe not like an absolutely excellent game, but honestly, pretty good. So it's a good place to start from if this game is kind of borrowing a similar concept structure to it. And
I mean the only thing that was like really missing from that Trials of Mana remake is like the charm of like that game to a lot of people is the co-op element.
Yeah.
So not being able to play with someone else, like kind of damaged it for some people, and that's understandable. And for this one, you don't know. We don't know if this is going to be like if you can play with someone else or not.
I hope they improve like the AI. My main issue with that game is just like the AI controlling your friends are so dumb. They would just stand in red line circles and get killed.
Right. Yep. So yeah, I mean that's really cool though that we have a brand new Mana and SaGa game coming out in the same year.
Yeah.
That makes me feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. That's awesome. Next up, we have a new sci-fi RPG announcement that was also revealed at the Game Awards. It's called Exodus, and it's being developed by Archetype Entertainment and published by Wizards of the Coast. I forgot which celebrity was on
Matthew McConaughey.
Right. Yes. So obviously, a lot of people when they see this, they're like, "Oh, they're making a Mass Effect," and it's it's not hard to see, to compare them. It is very much when you see this trailer of it, it's like, yeah, they're kind of making a Mass Effect. But
Yeah,
the
and
shtick to this is there's a time dilation make premise to it, right,
right.
Adam?
Yeah, so time dilation is a very common trope theme subject in a lot of like sci-fi books, like the Forever War and other books. And I don't think it's not something that's really been touched on in a lot of these like space opera games. So it's sort of an interesting, hook to have. This game is being kind of helmed by James Olin, who is a BioWare veteran. So like it's literally got some Mass Effect DNA in it. Although
Right.
James specifically, I believe, mostly worked on Star Wars: The New Republic, the MMO that BioWare does and still does. Or no, did they pass out? Did they pass that off to EA now? I'm trying to remember. Anyways,
Forgot. Yeah.
the MMO, I don't remember. So yeah, it's Archetype Entertainment is a new studio that Wizards of the Coast kind of founded, and this is their first game. So there's besides like the fact that it's got some BioWare DNA from its creator, it doesn't really the studio itself doesn't have a pedigree. So I'm kind of curious about. I would say I'm more curious about this game than interested. But we'll see what happens with it.
It is kind of interesting to see all these kind of new startup companies just immediately going to their first project is gonna be big, massive scale AAA. We saw that with Lords of the Fallen last year. Not
Oh,
formerly Lords of the Fallen 2.
it's also worth mentioning that this studio is based in Austin, which
Yes.
is where one of BioWare studios is. BioWare is Montreal and Austin and maybe somewhere else. So it definitely has that BioWare DNA for sure.
There's not true, but in my mind, I was like, their office buildings are right next to each other. They have binoculars over to BioWare's offices. All right, that sounds great. No, I'm just kidding, though.
Well, Montreal is
I'm
kind
sure.
of a side. Montreal is sort of amusing because there's a lot of game developers in Montreal, like Ubisoft, BioWare, Eidos, and a ton of others. So I'm sure they have staff moving around all the time.
Right. So this is currently in development for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Obviously, this seems to be an early in development thing, so we won't see it for a while, but we'll see how it shapes up. Next is a really cool announcement from the Game Awards. This is No Rest for the Wicked, being developed by Moon Studios, who are the developers of the Ori and the Blind Forest and the Ori Will of the Wisps games. And now their new project is isometric action RPG that supports multiple players, and it looks really cool. I'm very interested.
I think the best thing I can say about it, and this is a sentiment that I've seen across multiple people online, is I've seen people say that it looks like if Vanillaware's art style was perfectly translated to 3D, and it's like, yeah, there's slight differences with the heads, but it's the kind of the not really watercolor, but you know what I mean. It's just the overall aesthetic is similar enough where it's if anyone's even making that comparison, that's like 2 thumbs up for how it looks, and I agree with that. Just very excited to play it for myself. Loved Will of the Wisp when it came out, but that was 2019, right? Yeah, yep. I think that was 2019.
Yeah. This has been in development for quite some time. This announced for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. And they plan to release an early access on Steam in the first quarter of 2024, and then a more detailed reveal will be coming on March 1st. But yeah, this is definitely one of the games that was revealed at the Game Awards that really caught a lot of eyes, especially the RPG circle. This is, it's kind of an interesting genre change too, because the Ori games were platformers, Metroidvania platformers, and this one's a big shakeup, and it's really, really shaping something special. That's very cool.
Did we mention this is being published by Private Division? So that's
right. Yes.
I mean, that's that's 2K's kind of. It's supposed to be sort of their AA indie-ish label. I feel like they haven't had a great track record so far, but it's kind of interesting to see. I'm always sort of interested in when a big publisher like 2K, they have obviously their huge AAA stuff, but then they give a studio like Moon Studios something like this. It's interesting to see this sort of scale.
Yeah.
And also, just a quick callback to the BioWare thing. I just want to correct myself. BioWare Montreal no longer exists. They were merged into Motive Studios, making an Iron Man game. BioWare Edmonton is their head studio.
I totally forgot about that.
I had to remind myself, okay, they're Canadian, but which city was it again? So, yeah.
Oh. Also revealed at the Game Awards, Nexon and Neople unveiled the first Berserker, Khazan. There's a single-player action RPG, definitely a Souls-like. This was formerly known as Project Barbecue. That was like the prototype for it. And so they announced this. This is for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. No release date has been shared. So we got a first peek at what the current state of this project is with some cinematics, a little bit of gameplay. And this is set in the Dungeon and Fighter universe, or known as a DNF here overseas, which is a very, very popular sort of side-scrolling MMO over in Korea that's been going on for quite a while. Dungeon and Fighter has been in service for forever. and this IP also recently got a fighting game that released, I think, 2 years ago. That was developed by Arc System. So, yeah, this is cool. It's kind of a more bleak, grim, art style and atmosphere. Honestly, when you see screenshots, it looks a little bit edgy, but I can dig it. I'm interested in learning more about it, and seeing more longer gameplay footage. I'm always down, to see what people have. People's takes are on the action RPG, Souls-like genre. Because you can definitely get some really, really cool shit out of it, like Neo, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And Liza P. It's I haven't played it yet, but I remember for the longest time when that was first announced, it was kind of similar to this. I mean, it really is, because it was like a Korean studio that just didn't
really
have too much. Yeah, it's hopefully this turns out just as well.
Exactly. So, stay tuned for that one if you're interested in that genre. The big announcement that capped off the Game Awards this year was Capcom has a new Monster Hunter cooking, and it's a big new mainline Monster Hunter. That's titled is Monster Hunter Wilds, and is coming in 2025. Gotta
assume that's an early year release, because Capcom loves to put their biggest titles around there. RE4 Remake was March last year. Dragon's Dogma 2 is March this year. Gotta assume this is probably March next year.
Yeah, this is they confirmed this coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC, all simultaneous worldwide. There's no staggered release schedule like they did with the previous entries. So this is a very early reveal. They said the next time you'll hear more info about this game is the summer of this year. So it's gonna be quite a while since we hear it again. But we're all hoping this is gonna be the one that finally rectifies all of the series' recent stumblings, like no crossplay. Obviously, they're kind of rectifying the staggered release schedule by announcing it all up front.
I have a friend who there's a huge issue from Monster Hunter Rise that needs to be rectified in this game. A huge, staggering, gigantic issue, an oversight.
Okay.
Monster Hunter Rise.
Okay.
They need to bring back Poogies.
Ooh,
they have to bring back
that's
Poogies.
Important.
If there's no Poogies, then what's the point?
I'm sure Poogie will be back, because there hasn't been a mainline Monster Hunter without him. He's in 1, 2, 3, 4, and World. So I mean, I guess that's he's got to be in Wilds. It's got to be.
To clarify, this is the next Monster Hunter game that's being developed by the Monster Hunter World team. There's not because the Rise team was a separate team. So to clarify, this is kind of the direct sequel to Monster Hunter World. If people wanted more of that world style instead of what Rise brought to the table. And shortly after this announcement, Capcom was just like, "Hey guys, you want to play Monster Hunter World?" And then people were like, "Yeah, actually, we want to play Monster Hunter World." So like the player population for that has been fucking skyrocketing over the holidays, just because Capcom
Yeah.
said, "Hey, you guys want to play World?" It's like, yeah, World was a fucking cool game. You're right.
All right, let me check SteamDB because I know the last time I saw it, they had gotten up to like 143,000 people concurrently. So it might have
I saw
actually
something
hit
like 160.
150K.
I think I saw that, but
But yeah, it's just been with the fact that it's already like rebounded. 24-hour peak 163,000, which is just shy of half of its all-time peak 6 years ago. Wilds is going to be insane if World is having such a rebound now.
Yeah.
It's also going to be very interesting with kind of an aside, but not last year, in 2022, PC software sales in Japan were higher than PS5 software sales.
Wow.
We don't know about 2023 yet, but there is a very, very real chance, if not like a probable like chance, that Wilds will sell best on PC in Japan, which is insane to think about.
Especially if it has like really good Steam Deck support. Like I can see that a very, very alluring prospect in Japan. So that'll be interesting to see. The first few footage they showed of Wilds, very, very brief, but you saw it's not a Palamute mute necessarily, but you're writing some sort of feature. It's like some sort of mounting mechanic once again. And then like this creature was going through like waves of like a lot of like hordes of enemies, so like enemy density and population on screen seems to be up like noticeably right away. And then this creature, on top of like being like some sort of land mounting creature, this creature is versatile enough to like platform on like other platforms, and then can kind of spread its like wings and glide as well. So it's almost like a universal creature to navigate around.
Obviously, it's way too soon to know for sure, but the vibe I got from that trailer is it's probably still going to have sections of the map that are like kind of like the biomes from like World, but it seems like at least it might just be like one interconnected map. Sure, you can like spawn into, like you can find camps and like spawn into specific sections of it, but it seems like you can just explore like interconnected, like it's going to be interesting to see how it works. It's going to be interesting to see how it works.
I'm very interested to see what they because they're not bound by like previous generation hardware anymore. They're developed for the current generation.
Oh yeah, hardware. And like I'd say that for last generation, Monster Hunter World was the game that really made the most out of the hardware with like the simulation stuff with the CPU. Like I remember when it came to PC, a lot of people were unprepared for how demanding that game was to hit 60 FPS, because like back then a lot of folks still had like i5s with 4 cores, 4 threads, and it was not enough. You would have some stuttering when you got multiple monsters in the same location. Not the fault of the game, just the fact that like Capcom was really making use of the hardware available for them, which it's easy to say, oh well, like Monster Hunter has never been that way, but I mean, for the 3DS, those games are some of the most impressive games on the system.
They really pushed the limits on when the series was on handheld, like even on PSP, very crazy. So this will be one of the big, humongous, gigantic releases next year. So
I would say would be the biggest, but that would be a lie because Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out that year. It'll be the second biggest, but yeah.
We're all very, very looking forward to this. I mean, Monster Hunter World and Rise was a blast. So, but I'm always really interested in Monster Hunter when they're really, really pushing like the boundaries of like tech and seeing what they can get away with. Also at the Game Awards, they revealed and released the first half of this new Echoes of the Fallen DLC for Final Fantasy XVI. This is like 2 DLCs. So the first half is Echoes of the Fallen, and then the second half of it is the Rising Tide. Echoes of the Fallen already released, and then the Rising Tide will be coming spring this year.
And
Echoes of the
Cullen even sort of semi-reviewed the first DLC.
Yeah, and the first DLC, Echoes of the Fallen, takes place like right before you initiate like the final showdown in that game, and it primarily consists of like going up this tower to go fight like a boss. So it's very combat focused. While the second DLC, the Rising Tide, will be focusing on that missing Leviathan icon that was alluded to in the main story in that game. Yeah, if you're interested in checking out how that first DLC was, go read Cullen's sweet overview of Echoes of the Fallen. It's fairly brief. It's a fairly brief DLC, but if you want more out of FF16, it's available for you if you haven't checked it out. Next up, we right. Falcom did their annual investors meeting at the end of the year, and of course at the end of the year they usually announce a new title that's coming out the next year. So for the one that they held at December 2023, they announced a new Trails game coming out for 2024. It's the Legend of Heroes Kai no Kiseki Farewell O Zemuria, and that's releasing in Japan sometime this year, probably the last week of September, like like a lot of previous years. And this is following up on the events that happened in Kuro no Kiseki 2. There's been more and more info that's kind of been going or releasing for this game. It's kind of like been, they first revealed it, then they shared a little bit more info in Famitsu following it. But this is still primarily focusing like as the main central cast of the what was it? It was Van's crew in I forgot the region's name already. Calvard, yes. So they're still not kind of the main crew, but then this is alluding to like, hey, other people from other regions might be coalescing to certain events that are like were alluded to at Kuro no Kiseki. So try to keep it as as spoiler free as possible, because try to describe this game is like already kind of almost spoilers.
Yeah. It's like hoping this is more like a Trails to Azure instead of a Trails of Cold Steel 3. And fans of the series will know exactly what I mean by that. But I'm very excited to get to it. This also means I need to actually get back to my Kuro 2 playthrough. I hate this, but
yeah. So definitely, if you're keeping up with the Trails series, you'll have a new one releasing in Japan this year, and I'm sure it'll be crazy.
Interesting that they have not yet announced the platforms for this, so it'll be interesting to see what those platforms end up being. Like, I feel like PS5 and Switch are the obvious ones, because like obviously the Switch version of Kuro, not Daybreak, Kuro, will be releasing next month in Japan. So
I kind of have a random question. So I know for Trails into Daybreak or Kuro no Kiseki,
isn't it Trails through Daybreak?
Trails through Daybreak, sorry.
Yeah.
Into Reverie through Daybreak.
Yeah.
Okay. NIS America, I remember before they announced the localization, NIS America released the PC version of the Japanese version.
They have
Kuro.
released.
Have they done that for Kuro 2 yet?
No, they have not.
So,
which is interesting, because you'd think that they would have if they already have the license, because they're not going to do Kuro 1 and not do Kuro 2.
It's probably just a matter of time. Because for people who aren't familiar, in Japan, at least historically, these more recent games, aren't getting Steam releases in Japan. They're getting like Steam releases sometimes from like Clouded Leopard for like the Asian release, but that's not quite the same version. And then NIS America, like literally the American company, actually has released a couple of games, including Kuro, on PC for the Japanese audience. And then eventually adds in the translation.
It's interesting, though, because also during the investors meeting, there was a Q&A, and one of the responses, basically, Kondo himself just outright said that they originally wanted to get East 10 play up like on Steam day and date with the PlayStation and Switch versions of the game. So there is like at
That's
least
interesting.
yeah, and like they're also on the record saying that they want to support more platforms. So like I'm curious. I don't think it'll be like Kai will be available day and date on PC, but considering like what I mentioned like just previously about how like PC is a much more significant market in Japan. Well, is a more significant market in Japan now than PlayStation. It does make you wonder, like, okay, if they've been investigating it, they've been considering like trying to bring their stuff to PC themselves. It makes you wonder if it's not Kai, it feels like it's inevitable that within the next like couple of years they're gonna return to PC themselves, which is very interesting to think about.
Okay. Yeah. So, Kainu Kiseki coming soon in Japan. Next up,
I
they
will
shut
be
off.
there no matter what.
Next up, they showed off some new FF7 bits at
Before
the
that,
Game Awards.
before that,
Yeah, yeah.
we have a new person who has joined
Oh,
us.
Hello.
who is this person? New
Hello.
person,
Thanks
introduce
for
yourself.
Thanks for starting without me.
No
This is
problem.
Bryan. So yeah, I know you already did all the intro. Welcome back, New Year stuff. Blah blah blah. Yeah. I was helping a friend move, and not only that, but they're storing some stuff at my place. So it was a little bit like, yeah. But yeah. Hope everyone's had a good year.
Yeah, hopefully you're doing well as well. Anything you want to say to the audience, the listeners, about your holiday break?
I was able to. I don't like to keep a backlog. It's
Okay.
stressful.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to knock off a lot of games that I like kept installed that I wanted to like uninstall, but I wasn't done with them yet. If that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was able to play through Paranormal Site,
Hell
and
yeah.
that was a good time and a little bit out of my normal like sphere. So it was kind of good to play something a little bit different, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Cool.
I booted up, did some final quests, and then uninstalled both Wild Hearts and Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak because like the Wilds announcement. Oh, have we talked about that yet?
We did. We
Monster Hunter
did. Yeah, we did talk about it. But are you gonna join me and James and every person on the planet when Wilds comes out?
Yeah, probably. But so I had played Sunbreak. This will be short, promise. Up
Yeah.
to its release end game, but I hadn't played any of the title updates. So I went in and I at least did the low hanging fruit of the title update. So I did like the chaotic Gormagala, I did the Amatsu. I didn't do like the Risen Dragons because I just didn't want to like grind the master rank that high. But I kind of got my feet wet, kind of got my did some of the low hanging fruit, and then got that uninstalled. I did the same for Wild Hearts. I just did some of the volatile quests or whatever. And like, yep, I still enjoy this game. I uninstalled that. I was finally able to get some regular endings in World of Horror. So that was because I kind of installed it right before the end of the year podcast to at least kind of know what I was talking about a little bit. But then I was able to actually play through some runs over the break. I did the Pokemon DLC.
You had a busy break.
Well, these were it was like 3 hours here, 4 hours there, and they're all little
Yeah.
things I just wanted to like kind of all right, knock that out, knock that out, knock that out.
Yeah, I was doing the same for a lot of stuff, so I understand.
And then the big one that I still I do want to play Rogue Trader, but every time I look at it, like people say it's still buggy. So I'm like, all right, I'll get back to it.
That is totally expected.
Yeah,
It
and
feels
then,
like every
I do-
Owlcat game is very, very well received. It's like maybe don't get it at launch. Let it.
Yeah, like
polish up
there's
a
a
bit.
certain you're just reminded like a certain point like the Rogue Trader like saves were getting corrupted if you got like the wrong like patch, you know. Oh
Yeah.
god.
And I go there, and
Well,
it's like
we've
it's
said
like
this
it's like
before.
13 hotfixes in 18 days or something like
Yeah,
that. I'm like,
Bryan
okay.
has said this before. Like his Kingmaker review, he got a review copy, literally couldn't finish it. Like,
Yeah.
game breaking bug.
I hear it's a cool game though. Like from friends who have played it, they say Rogue Trader is really cool if you're willing to deal with Alcat being Alcat.
Yeah,
For
and
the first
then
few months.
I do want to get back to Starfield eventually because I played it like incredibly critical path. Like I didn't enjoy it almost. You could argue because it's not a good game or whatever, but like I didn't allow myself. I like only followed the quest marker to finish it as quickly as I possibly could, and it wasn't very fun. So I do want to like give it a real shake, but I know that's like a 100-hour commitment or at least like a 70-hour commitment. But yeah, then of course we'll talk about it when we go to the release dates. But end of January. early to mid January is pretty open in terms of at least having some room to breathe. Then end of January, end of February is insane. Like those next 3 weeks. But yeah, all right. I will eat up too much of your time. But yeah, sorry I was late.
Thank you for the Bryan recap. We love the Bryan
Yep.
recap.
There you go.
Hell yeah. But yeah, we're just getting to the notable trailers updates on our doc here. Starting off, we have the new bits of info of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth that was showed up at the Game Awards. They premiered it with a live debut of the game's vocal theme, and this was composed by Nobuo Uematsu and performed by Lauren Allred, who's most well known for her single "Never Enough" from the Greatest Showman musical. So that was a very nice surprise.
Yeah, and this
And then
trailer, the version they showed at the Game Awards showed a lot, like a lot, and then the actual like upload they submitted later was like twice as long. In terms of there's a lot to sink into this trailer here. You could spend a whole episode on it, I'm sure, a whole podcast episode. There were a lot of cool things that we've been sort of talking about in terms of like, you know, well-loved moments from Final Fantasy VII that we are expecting to see in this, you know, follow-up to Final Fantasy VII Remake. Like Brian's talked about, you know, the Barrett dying storyline, and that was in the trailer. It looks really cool.
we got to see Sid.
Yeah, we get to see Sid. Get to see
He's very
Vincent.
nice. It
I was
doesn't
surprised to see
feel
Sid.
like him, you know? It's like, you know, he's usually that douche. It's like that ass. It's like he's always swearing and cussing. But here's like so nice. Like, how can I help you, Eric? Just not this.
Maybe things
Well, it'll be
sarcastic.
interesting because, like, I feel like when I first played Remake, Aerith's kind of personality wasn't really what I expected from her either, but it's sort of like become what I now think about when I think about Aerith. So we'll see.
Yeah, Aerith
I
is
think that was-
definitely a glow up in a remake, and I feel like pretty like regardless of how people feel about remake, it feels like most people agree that that was the one thing that absolutely nailed. So
Well, I think even in the original game, the intent was for like Tifa, even like their outward appearance doesn't really, I won't say match, but like their personalities kind of like Tifa is the more reserved one, Aerith is the outgoing, you know, sarcastic, quippy one. And I just think Remake kind of gave that, you know, with the voice acting and just the additional time for that to breathe. And then obviously it's like what will happen to Aerith is the big question to this game.
Yeah,
But
they
like
got a
Adam
cheeky
said-
ending to that new trailer.
yeah. As every single one of these does a cheeky ending, but trailers. But like Adam said, I'm more interested in the dine scene and also like the Nanaki scene at Cosmo
Yeah.
Oh
Canyon.
yeah, Cosmo Canyon for sure.
Yeah, the middle section of Final Fantasy VII, which is the second disc in the remake trilogy, has like the most interesting story nuggets for me. So
It's also
I'm
sort of
excited,
interesting that, like, in the original Final Fantasy VII, this is also where you can do, like, the Wutai Yuffie stuff. But they actually said that's not in Rebirth. Like, that'll be later. So this is even looking more ahead into the future. Like, how are they going to handle that down the road? But we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they showed some more info. They showed, you know, Gold Saucer, Cordal Prison. Showed off a bit more synergy than some of the summons. Titan, Bahamut Arisen, Phoenix, and then they also showed off like some sort of like this like new bonds of friendship mechanic. Like you can kind of do like a select your option when you're talking with some of the characters to increase their bond.
Well, like, the original Final Fantasy VII sort of had, like, a hidden affinity meter, which would determine who you did on the Gold Saucer date with. And that's in this version, too. It seems like it's a little bit more fleshed out. Like, you're literally... I think there was a screenshot. I don't have it in front of me of Aerith's, like let's go together. And you can either say, yes, let's... Or no, let's not, or whatever.
I forgot if this is like, is this only for the Gold Saucer in this one, or is there actually like extends beyond that?
We don't know, but it showed literally there were 4 screenshots of the Gold Saucer Ferris wheel, one for each of the dates. You know, the 3 girls and Barrett. So like, they're all there. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this.
Yeah, and then you also have this Loveless performance.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And then there's some also interesting things, like it shows like the performance of Loveless with Aerith, but it also shows like Jessie for a moment, and it's just like, is this like a flashback? Is this like a virtual reality thing? What's going on here? And also like, there's also other components that are like remake specific, like for example, what is Biggs doing now? So Interesting. A lot of
The
you know, it's a very very interesting release. It won our most anticipated.
You get to see Biggs Nas Banana.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's once again just around the corner. It's the end of next month, and it's already here. So, yes, it's gonna be a 1-2. Gonna be one of the big ones this year. Another info drop at the Game Awards, and this time for Atlas's latest from Studio Zero, Metaphor ReFantazio. They showed off new footage that shows off like the battle system. What's really interesting is this battle system is very much looks like what's in Trails Through Daybreak, where you have like this action element to it, and you can switch to a turn-based one from the action section. So that's kind of obviously they're not like they didn't copy it off in Trails Through Daybreak, but it's interesting that like in development of both Trails Through Daybreak and Metaphor, they kind of had the similar thought process of like, okay, what's the next step in like evolving the battle system and philosophy of RPGs, you know.
Yeah.
So so both of them kind of came up with very similar solutions. Like let's introduce an action element first, and if the enemy's weak, you can get through that action element, you know, fairly quickly to speed up battles. But if you want to have more fighter control over like tougher enemies, you can switch over into turn-based mode from the action elements. So we got to see like a first look at that in action with this new trailer. They also released a creator's voice video that had director Hashino, character designer Soejima, and composer Meguro talk more about kind of the fighter aspects of Metaphor ReFantazio. Obviously, you got to hear about a lot from Hashino from his point of view, obviously directing and where he wants to take the game. The big thing also that they introduced is the various races or the tribes rather in Metaphor ReFantazio. So like in this fantasy world, there's their interpretation of this fantasy world. A lot of the conflict stems from like the cultural clashes in between these 8 tribes, and they have like fancy names for the tribes like Clamar, Rosant, Roag, but you know, but like the Rosant tribe, for example, are basically elves with very very pointy ears, and while the Ishkia tribe are like kind of like the angel race because they have angel wings. So yeah, so, and they clarified that like the humans in this fantasy world are actually like the really fucked up looking enemies that you encounter. So I assume we're gonna find out why are humans like this in this fantasy world, you know. So they're the primary enemy that we've seen in screenshots and footage. But yeah, they showed off.
I've been clicking through the footage as you've been talking
Yeah.
about it, and uh, what most captures me is like the the is it high fantasy or is it like retro future or whatever? It's kind of like Ghibli-esque steampunkish fantasy. It's like a weird blend. It's like I don't think I have a good analog for like I'm like looking like this airship that they're on. There's like this crawling mech with like arms at one point. It's just interesting. Like the tech fantasy, I guess, is what I'm looking at. It was really kind of appealing.
Yeah, it's an interesting blend because there's like some aspects that look medieval, but then there are some aspects that look like pretty technologically advanced, and yet there are some aspects that like seem like very rudimentary in comparison. So it really makes you wonder, like, that's a really interesting way to like kind of build up your fantasy. So this is,
and of course, the 2D animation's all stellar.
Yeah, very. So there's no release date yet, but they did clarify that this will come out fall of this year, the release window, and this is for PlayStation 5.
Only on Xbox.
It's that Xbox they paid for that.
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't get fooled. That's part of the marketing campaign. This is for PS5, PS4, Xbox Series, and PC, and we're launching worldwide simultaneously. Don't buy into the propaganda that it's only for Xbox. Oh man, because I know a lot of people do believe that, and that their marketing is working. That's what it's saying. So yeah, that's a metaphor. They released new info on Vanillaware's latest project in December. That is Unicorn Overlord, which is coming out on March 8th of this year. The big thing that they unveiled is they have some sort of like light marriage mechanic called the Rite of Covenant in this game, where at some point when you build up like enough friendship or bond with a unit, you can actually propose to them with your main character Elaine with this ring of the ring of the maiden. And the cool part about this is it doesn't matter what sex or gender that your character you're proposing to is. You can it seems like no matter if you're a male, female, and hopefully they have non-binary representation. I don't know, but it's not locked to like a singular sex here. So I don't know exactly what the implications are and how deep that marriage mechanic's going to go. They only kind of announced the mechanic here. They also showed off a little bit of when you take over a town, liberate it, you can establish a tavern there, and you can build up bonds with your characters, build up rapport, and you can share it through food. So it's a excuse to show, hey, look at more of this vanillaware food in this game, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I was
"Goddamn."
like Vanillaware are just making us make. I haven't eaten anything today. Damn it!
No.
I have a cup of coffee, so
There you go.
this is what
So
I'll enjoy.
so check out this. Yes.
It's also sort of interesting that when we did our vote in our reader poll for most anticipated RPGs of this year, 2024, and there are four SaGa RPGs, 3 different developers, or 3 or 4 depending on how you want to count it. But you have Like a Dragon, you have Persona 3 Reload, you have Metaphor ReFantazio, and then you have this as 4 RPGs that were voted in the top 10. So big year for SaGa RPGs.
Yes, that's
Big year for Sega and big year for Square Enix because, like,
Yeah.
FF7 Rebirth, you have Visions of Mana, you have Saga, you have Dawn Trail. It's like, God,
Yeah.
just
Dawn Trail was
It's
voted
hard-
11. Like it was just shy of making the top 10.
it's kind of RPG heaven at the outset here for this year. Like
heaven or hell, depending on how you look at it. Considering, like,
yeah,
Agony and
can't
Ecstasy.
can't exactly say what, but the fucking Hell March has already begun.
yeah.
Best of luck to those already in the trenches.
So yeah, I mean, this is gonna be, I'm really looking forward to Unicorn Overlord. This is, every time they put an info drop, I'm like, goddamn, hell yeah.
I'm going to buy Unicorn Overlord. I don't know if I'm going to play it at launch, but it's like one of those games where it's like, sure, if I waited 3 or 4 months, it'll probably be cheaper. But I need to support Vanillaware.
I want to support
I already
Vanillaware.
bought the collector's edition. Haven't you done so, James?
I'll pre-order it next week. I swear. I swear.
So yeah, this is gonna be, like I said, March 8th. So it's shortly releasing after FF7 Rebirth. So shortly
everyone's going to be
you'll
on.
done with Rebirth.
We're going to be in FF7 mode, and then Unicorn Overlord will just pop right in.
I will champion Unicorn. I'm already getting my games mixed up. Oh yeah.
I was thinking, like, what else is in March? There's nothing else in March, right? Oh wait, nope. Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah.
And
nothing
Rise of the
else,
Ronin. Rise of the Ronin.
Rise
It's
of the
like
Ronin also. And that's
the
next
moment
day.
the moment that the release date for Rise of the Ronin was revealed, I just like actually screamed because it's like no, not the same day as Dragon's Dogma. No.
I disintegrated when I saw that.
That is the easiest skip in my life. I'm just going straight to Dragon's Dogma.
I'm sorry, Koei Tecmo. I'm sorry. If you wanted me to play that game at launch, you would not release it on PS5 only the same day Dragon's Dogma 2 releases. I will just wait for that PC port. I'm sure it will come out like at either the end of the year or early next year when I will have more time to play it.
And hopefully it's a decent PC port. Koei Tecmo has struggled with that recently.
Oh yeah.
They're hit and miss, yeah.
Digital Foundry put out a video of the worst PC ports of the year, and like I think Wild Hearts was like I think they said Wild Hearts was the worst PC port of the year from as far as they're concerned.
I remember, I think all these PC ports. I'm not sure about Wild Hearts, but like Neo 2's PC port was pretty bad at launch. I think it's fine now. Maybe not excellent, but fine. Wolong was bad at launch, and I think it's also sort of like fine now. So yeah. and then
I,
Wild Hearts,
I,
of
I,
course.
I would like to find now to be at launch and then better.
Right.
down the
Exactly.
road.
Hopefully,
Wow.
because part of the reason why Wolong and Wild Hearts were a bit rough is that they switched to a new engine. I think it's called the Katana engine now. So there was a lot of teething issues. It sounds like I'm giving them some rope and I'm like giving them some defense here. I want to be clear. Anyone that had an RDNA 3 GPU at launch for Wild Hearts for the first 2 weeks of that game's launch, it was an epileptic hazard. And they
yeah, that's right. I remember you.
and they
talking about
knew about that issue in that engine because I was the fucking person that reported it in January in Wolong. So it's like,
Well, I remember early last year we had like 3 games back to back. It was Wild Hearts, Wolong, and one other PC port I don't remember. And we're like, I think we titled one of our podcasts like, "Please give us a decent PC port at launch."
Hey,
It was a bad stretch.
Here's my secret tech behind the scenes on this Rise of the Ronin and Dragon's Dogma 2 at release. I put myself down to review Rise of the Ronin so I can hopefully play that so Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't overlap with that.
if
So I will cover it if they send us early code. So I can play that, and then when Dragon's Dogma 2 hits, I'm like, all right, my conscience is clear.
This is what
You
I'm
know
thinking
what?
with like Eiyuden and SaGa.
yeah, you know what? I say if I get Dragon's Dogma 2 like code, but I'm pretty sure even if I don't review it, I'll be on guides duty, and I'm sure we'll get like multiple codes. So I'll probably, if talking to you, it sounds like Rise of the Ronin is worth picking up at launch, I'll probably do the same thing then.
I mean, I'm hoping it's cool. Like I have faith in the Neo team, so I'm really crossing my fingers. That's my line of thinking here.
Maybe the reason that Wolong was just okay was because the Neo 2A team was working on Rise of the Ronin. Surely that's it. Surely.
Here we go, A team and B team, and now for the Neo team. So we had a new 6-minute key feature trailer for Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes that came out in December. This really goes in depth of like, hey, this is kind of all the features that we're putting into this game. They showed off, obviously what we've seen before is the story premise with the 3 protagonists. We saw a little bit of the battle system, but they showed off the war mode in this game. And that's meant to like echo sort of like the tactical strategy element from the Suikoden
Well,
games.
all the Suikoden games have some sort of war mode.
Yeah.
It varies a little bit from game to game, but they all have some sort of like sub mini game, almost like a macro game actually, of the battle simulator thing. So
yeah.
And was this trailer the first time we saw the Rising characters in their new?
No, we've seen them before.
Oh,
yeah. We
okay.
have
They're
English
just
voice
secret
actors
here
though
again
now
as well.
Yes.
Oh.
So yeah, and the war mode of this one kind of reminds you of Khazan a little, which is kind of neat because it has like the little you see the little pieces. Then when you zoom in, you actually see like your army of your allies going to the enemy and sort of managing more of a war instead of like a turn-based battle system. It's almost a simulation, if you will. They showed more of the town building, and then they showed some of the mini games. Of course, there's fishing, and there's usual, and then there's like a cooking mini game of like serving people. But then they showed off Beyblades in this game. I'm like, wait a minute, there's Beyblades. So you have like these tops that you can I assume build, and you can go against head to head with enemies in this game, battling tops, and it's pretty much Beyblade. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay, sure. So that's really cool. So yeah, it's coming out April 23rd over here. So once you're done with all the RPGs, early on this year, you're done with Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. You're done with Granblue Fantasy Relink. You're done
with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
You're done with FF7 Rebirth. You're done with Unicorn Overlord. You're done with Rise of the Ronin. You're done with Dragon's Dogma 2. So now, surely you're all done with that by April. Now you have Eiyuden Chronicle. 100 Heroes.
Yeah, and surely you'll be able to beat it in the 2 days before Game of the Year comes out. So
Before SaGa.
Yeah, surely you're and surely you got all of the games that you wanted to play from 2023 out of the way beforehand, right?
Oh yeah.
Obviously.
So you got to check out Eiyuden Chronicle.
Yes.
Last year.
Yeah, it was a very last minute thing. Literally the week of the Game Awards, they the Friday before the Game Awards, I think it was Stride PR. Yeah, well, Stride PR basically sent out an invite for a preview of Eiyuden Chronicles, the first hour. It was the same day as the Game Awards. Less than a week heads up. Thank God I was local because I was able to actually sit down and play it. Obviously, I wrote up my thoughts on it early last month, and I really enjoyed it. I'm actually really excited for this, and it's like I knew it was probably going to be good, but this feels bad. But I was hoping that I wouldn't enjoy the preview as much as I did because it's like fuck.
Well, I think that's a glowing recommendation.
I wanted to dislike this, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
There's too many games. I wanted to dislike it. I wanted to check one off the list.
That feels mean to say, but you understand why.
Yeah, I get it. That's a funny way to rationalize it.
But yeah, some interesting stuff with the combat. The music is incredible. Oh my god, the music is incrable.
Motoi Sakuraba and Michiru Naruke.
It's funny how there's been this consensus I've seen around a bunch of people where it's like Sakuraba is an incredible composer when he's not on a Tales of project.
Sorry, Michiko Naruke.
You're not wrong. His Dark Souls OST really good. So, but there's something to that.
Yeah, but anyways, read my thoughts on the game from last month if you haven't already. Understandably, if you haven't read it, it's like it was just like so much news, so many other stuff going up, so it's like understandable. But yeah, I am sorry, folks, if you weren't already excited for Eiyuden Chronicles. You should be.
Hell yeah!
I really like how it looks.
I really
the 2D pixel art with the kind of the 3D backgrounds.
It's not necessarily like Star Ocean 2.
It actually sort of reminds me of like Trails in the Sky, only with 2 pixel, with like 2D characters rather than the what those have. So,
man. I can't wait for this one. And we're still waiting for a release date for the Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster as well.
Yeah.
That's also this year. So
I've heard kind of weird things about like those Metal Gear Solid remasters. Like they were what, 720p?
They were 720p on everything, and the Switch version only had like Metal Gear 1 and 2, not Solid, Metal Gear 1 and 2 on the game card, and then everything else you had to download for some reason.
And I've heard other weird like performance or emulation or whatever things. It's like, come on, Konami, you can get Suikoden, right? Can't you? Come on.
I am hoping that they have a different obviously a different. Hopefully it's not just like a porting team like that they did with the MGS. Collection. Hopefully it's like kind of tailor made and almost like remastered from the ground up and with modern optimizations in mind instead of just like, hey, we're just gonna port here. It's like, okay, come on. So we're hopefully next time they show. It's not like the first showing of Suikoden 1 and 2 HD remaster was bad. It's just like now we have precedent of like what they're doing now with the MGS collection. Our game of the year of last year is now on Xbox Series. They shadow dropped Baldur's Gate 3 at the 2023 Game Awards, and it came out last month on Xbox Series X and S. I'm sure
there's been some issues I've heard.
Oh, okay.
With saves, and also I guess like if you are streaming the game and it shows like a sex scene, it was like considered bad. Like it would like
people get banned.
Whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
And they're like, oh, okay, we'll fix this. So,
well, yeah, there's the full frontal nudity. There is heavy sex in that game. You can fuck a bear.
Anyways, by the way, the section of the podcast we're in now are like all the release dates, and they're kind of generally in order. So some of these we've already like touched on, like Rise of the Ronin and stuff. But we're going into our release date section.
And a lot of times when a release date's announced, it's alongside other information as well. Not all the time, but often. But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3. He like Sven was supposed to say it like during his speech, but he only had 30 seconds. So he's like, oh yeah, by the
Please
way,
wrap it up.
And then and I don't have a direct tweet in front of me, but I remember reading one of the developers. Like obviously they were struggling with the Series S version for the longest time. But like because of the headache of having to deal with that, they like found like a lot of like efficiencies. Like they were like put under the gun to figure out how to make that thing work on the S, and were able to kind of clean up and find a lot of neat little software tricks to help all versions of the game. So it's kind of a neat little bonus.
So as cool as that is, apparently there's been an ongoing issue with the Series X version for I guess a month now, where people keep losing their saves.
Oh no!
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
This
is not the type of game you want to lose your save in. Not that you ever want to, but
I would be Like
Yeah,
I have a 200-hour save and it's now gone.
I've seen at least like one person on like Reddit who like in the most recent thread about it on like r/games where they were like, yeah, I don't know when I'm gonna pick this up again because I lost my save right as I got into Act 3. I don't want to touch this game.
No.
It's like I read that and it just was like, oh man, they should just like give you a refund and let you keep the game if that happened to you. It's like, holy shit, man.
Yeah. Well, if you're on it and you're having fun, great. And if you're holding off, maybe that's the right call.
Back up your saves.
Yeah, back up your saves.
The problem is you can't easily do that
I
on.
don't know if you could on the Xbox.
One of the things they're recommending people do is make sure that Larian cross saves are enabled because that might give you an extra bit of security. I don't know how well it's working, but maybe it'll help.
And obviously, Larian's obviously actively investigating and trying to fix this, 24/7 around the clock.
Yep.
So, give them some time. It's a big game, one might say.
Yeah.
This is cool for me. So level 5, they pushed back all their titles to this year, and one of the titles was Inazuma 11 Victory Road, and at the time it was only previously announced for PS5, PS4, Switch, and mobile devices. But now they announced that they're also adding a Steam version for this game, which is hell yeah, great news for me because I've always wanted to try out this game. And this seems to be the Inazuma 11 celebration game for all Inazuma 11, and I'm like, okay, well, this seems like a great place to start. This is the ultimate Inazuma 11 game. And I was bummed out it wasn't coming to PC, but now they're like, hey, it's coming to PC. I'm like, cool.
Please, Deca, please next. Please, Deca, please next.
Yeah, we're pretty much we're hoping every fucking level 5 title is coming to PC.
Now, granted, what I did play of Deca Police at TGS on a PS5, it looked great. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it'll run and look just fine on PS5. But PC anyways. Please.
But yeah, I cannot commit that I'm gonna be the biggest Inazuma 11 fan out of this, but I am interested enough to check it out because I know a lot of people who are fans of this game and really, really praise it. I'm like, okay, I should give this series a shot. And all the footage that I've been looking for this game, it's like, man, this is really intricate. I'm not the biggest knowledge.
Josh is a huge soccer fan.
I'm not a big soccer knowledge person, but
I mean, you kind of left, kind of give away the game by calling it soccer in the first place.
Yeah, I know. I'm not a big knowledge, person for the football americano, one might say, Or no, that's just football in Spanish and football americano for actual American football.
So you're confusing yourself.
Yeah. But
we gotta educate ourselves by playing.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
Where's the touchdown? How do you do a touchdown in this game?
Yeah. I think I find it very, very funny that I'm pretty sure the one person on staff that knows the most about both soccer, football and American football is our British boss.
Probably. Just around the corner, Legend of Grimrock that came out in 2012 on PC. That was the first person in a dungeon. I don't know if it was a turn-based, but
it's real time. It's real time.
Yeah.
I think the
Blobber.
Blobber. I think the interesting thing about this for me is when I was going through like my preliminary, like first going through like all these RPGs to test them on like Steam Deck article back when I got my Steam Deck in May of 2022, like Legend of Grimrock was one of those games I played. It does not have gamepad support. So I wonder, they probably won't, but I wonder if they'll add in gamepad support with the Switch version's release.
Yeah, the Legend of Grimrock, it's coming to Switch on January 15th, so a few days away.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, not just the news, pretty much.
I thought this already had a console release, but no, like it's PC mobile only. I was like, surely this came out on PS4 or something, right? Like, oh no, never did.
So when this was announced, I was like surprised because we hadn't heard about Grimrock in almost a decade, and I actually
they released a sequel too.
Yeah, I forgot what even the developer's name was because they're just not in my mind space because we haven't been thinking or talking about them. It's Almost Human is the Finnish developer of these games, and I was sort of curious, like, what have they been working on since Grimrock 2? Because I have no idea, and the answer apparently is nothing. They made like these two games, and they were just sort of like satisfied, and they were like, we're not really making anything right now.
Like, hell yeah.
And they even put it in the press release. Let me just read it. All of us at Almost Human have had other things to do besides Legend of Grimrock in recent years, so why should we do a port of a game that's almost 11 years old? The idea of a port arose when our programmer, Petri Hakkanen, had a Nintendo Switch developer kit, and he thought it would be a fun and educational side project to get the game running on our favorite console platform. Most of our decisions aren't driven by business development plans or market analysis, and this is no exception. And we simply did the project because it was enjoyable for us. We anticipate this release will rekindle the excitement of many old fans of the game, and we hope some new adventurers will discover the delights of old-school dungeon crawling.
And then they said like this new Switch port is coming with an overhauled UI for both docked and handheld modes to suit both of them. So, they're just like, if you want to see how they adapted it on that platform, it's definitely need to check out.
Yeah, and knowing, because I didn't actually remember that they had done a mobile version before, like Adam just mentioned it now. I guess it makes sense that they would have ported it to Switch if they had a dev kit, because it's like they're both the same architecture. So yeah, maybe is Legend of Grimrock 2 on mobile as well, or is that only on PC?
I don't know.
Because I know that Grimrock 2 is the one that people really, really like. I still need to play both of those. I'm a fake Blobber fan. I am sorry. But yeah, it's like, it's funny because like I remember a decade ago, like Grimrock and Grimrock 2 were like some of the big PC exclusives people talked about. And it's just like, nowadays you don't really get too many of those.
There's a couple of responses to our article about this, our tweet or whatnot, where the sentiment was like, this developer came out of nowhere, created two of the best dungeon crawlers ever made, and then left within a 2-year period. Okay.
Uses to elaborate, leaves.
Yeah. I went to go check the iOS store, and only the first one is there. They never made a mobile version of the Grimrock 2, as far as my quick search for it is concerned. Yeah. So, good on them. Hopefully, if this does well, hopefully they come back together and do it for re-release the sequel on Switch and maybe mobile as well. But it's people really, really fucking love this game. I really like the second one as well. I put a lot of time to that. So the first one is like I dabbled in it a little, but the second one is really where it hit the spot for me. So this is cool. That was cool. That's on January 15th, the Switch version for Legend of Grimrock 1. So coming long overdue. At January 25th, the Nintendo Switch version of Grime is coming out. So they finally gave a release date for this. This was initially announced December 2021, I believe. So it's originally slated for summer 2022. Then it kept getting pushed back. So finally, at long last, Grime is coming to the Switch on January 25th, and alongside this release, there'll be the third and final free DLC, Parting Shade, is coming out on all its available platforms on that day. So including the Switch, it's coming out on PlayStations, Xbox Series, Xbox One, PC, which is on available on Steam, GOG, and Epic stores. So there's everywhere. Yeah, this is the Souls-like from developed by Cloverbyte and published by Akupara Games. So good on them, to finally get that Nintendo Switch version out, and hopefully runs well when it comes out. And yeah, so for people who are waiting for that version, the wait is almost finally over.
This one was
It's
sort
been
of
a while.
fun, or this one was sort of amusing because this game came out in 2021. And I hear it's pretty good. Just it's like a side-scrolling. They call it like a side-scrolling Souls-like, and I heard it's pretty good. And they announced that there was going to be a Switch version, but they kept delaying it. But the thing is like they kept releasing like DLCs. They're free DLCs for the game, so they never went like completely radio silent because they were always updating the game on the other platforms. It's just like, well, where's the Switch version? Where is it? Where is it? Over basically 2 years later, and finally here it is. So good on them for finally getting that version up to snuff. Hopefully it's in good shape.
Yeah, yeah. Next up, we have a DLC for Eastward, called Eastward Octopia, Octopia, coming out on January 31st for the Switch and PC. The nature of this DLC, I'm trying to remember. Was this
Um,
more?
It's
Was this more of a
basically
laid back?
It's like
DLC?
it's so the original game is sort of like a 2D kind of adventure RPG, like isometric-ish top-down pixel art adventure RPG. This is like a farming sim. And
Oh,
it
okay,
is
yeah.
not canon. It doesn't fit into a timeline. It seems like it's quite literally we're just gonna take these characters from the game and now it's a farming sim.
Like everyone's just having a
Why
good
not?
time, relaxing.
we're just taking our Eastward assets and we're gonna make Stardew Valley.
Okay, I respect that.
That sounds more dismissive than I intend. They're like, you know what? Let's try our hands at it. We'll
Yeah.
try, use what we've got with our art assets and our, our tech.
What
give
was
it a go.
the original game like? I remember Paige reviewed it or something.
She liked it.
Yeah, the original
She's
game was
bought
like an
merch and
RPG.
stuff for the game also. She liked it that
Yeah,
much. So
yeah, she really liked the Eastward. So that's coming January 31st. It's gonna be priced at $5.99 USD. Um, yeah. Next up, Cygames had a lot to say about Granblue Fantasy Relink because it's coming out in less than a month. And they wanted to tell you all about Granblue Fantasy Relink at their Granblue Fest in December. Um, they unveiled a new trailer for it, two trailers. The first one was showing off the theme song called "Good Night, Good Morning," sung in English by the Japanese voice actors of Lyria, Nao Toyama. Really, really good theme song. I didn't know that Nao Toyama could sing in English, but
That's the first time I ever heard her singing
yeah, it's awesome.
English.
Yeah. Then they showed off another trailer showing off some of the boss battles in the game with the four primal beasts and some of the members of the church. Like there's some church faction you go up against. So they showed off some like the antagonists in the game. They showed off a new playable character for Granblue Fantasy Relink. The next one that they showed up is Cagliostro, who is a fan favorite in the game and also available as a playable character in the fighting game. So we haven't really seen how she plays in Granblue Fantasy Relink, but they just announced her. They also announced that there'll be an update for the game in April that adds new content, and part of that new content is two new playable characters. That's Seothon and Tuyen. I know that Tuyen's known called Song.
Yeah, her
In
Japanese name is Song. Because they're
and
all
the
named after numbers from a different language. But for some reason, the English localization just completely botched that. So Uno changed to Andre.
what's Seothon in
Siete.
Siete? Okay.
I love their Japanese names so much, so I refuse to call them by their
I
English
mean, a lot
names.
of people do. So yeah, people just that's why I get like try to remember which is their Japanese names and which is their
Yeah,
English
even in the
names.
wiki, you
Yeah.
could just switch to you could just search up with like the English, I mean like the Japanese name, and it's like, yep, that's what we're doing. Like nobody calls them by their English name,
Yes.
except for Sarasa, because people find Sarasa's name's a little bit hard to say, so they just call her by the actual English name, which is Theo. So that's about it. But
Yeah.
other than that, everybody hates their English names.
Yeah, so but both of these characters coming in the April update for Relink are part of the Eternals, and that's a fairly popular faction from the game. They also announced that there's going to be a Granblue Fantasy Relink demo coming out sometime this month, but this demo is only coming out for the PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4 version of the game. There's no Steam version of the demo that they
Like
announced.
side games, was it not enough that you don't have the gotcha code with the PC version? Come on.
Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. But so they announced that with the demo, obviously you get to see some of the main story. You'll get to play some online multiplayer quest. 11 playable characters are available to try out in that demo. They said you can earn rewards for the full game, but I don't know what that means necessarily. Um,
Who are you
so yeah,
maining?
I don't know. I need to try out people. I want to try out Yoda actually. Looks fun.
No, he is like a god in the game, like story-wise. That's my opinion. But
I was looking at some
gameplay-wise, he's kind of
footage.
trash.
I was looking at some footage, and they were talking about like Yoda's mechanics. Like it's very like timing based and going like slashing up like enemies really fast, and you can keep the rhythm going as long as like you get time button presses right, I guess. And that looks really fun to me. So yeah, there's been some videos around this game like showing off like how each of the characters play, and they all look like really unique. Like some of them have a lot of like unique mechanics just for that character going on. So I'm excited to try out all the characters though. They seem
So,
to
as
all
someone who
play
never
differently.
played Monster Hunter before, do you think this will be an easy first Monster Hunter style type game for me?
I think you'll be fine. To be honest,
Yeah, you'll be fine.
The,
fine.
the
You'll be
structure feels kind of Monster Hunter-ish, but it doesn't won't have like it doesn't probably won't have like the same gear grind.
Yeah, it's not like you have
So
to learn about like traps or like capturing the monsters and like trying to track them. It's not going to be like anything intricate like Monster Hunter like that. I think there's definitely more character focus on progressing your character, learning how to play your character, and learning like a boss's like attack patterns like an MMO fight.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Mechanics and whatnot, yeah.
Yeah. So, also released very recently. I don't know when, but on the official site for Granblue Fantasy Relink, they showed the PC requirements, a minimum requirement, recommended requirement, and optimal requirements.
I'm
Uh,
sure James is going to go live it since it's
okay, so
4K.
well, James and I are going to dissect this a little. So the minimal and recommended requirements are pretty straightforward. Like your processor for the minimum requirement is you can go down to as low as an i3 9100 for Intel, and then you can have an AMD Ryzen 3 3200G for your minimal requirement, and you'll be fine. 16 gigs of RAM, and then for a graphics card, you can go if you have it'll support 1060 GeForce GTX, and then for AMD it'll support RX 580.
Just a complete aside, but I think looking at this, I feel like it's worth mentioning just because of how funny it is. Just earlier this week, the PC requirements for that new Prince of Persia game also came out. Do you know what the recommended GPU for Ultra 4K 60 is for that game?
a 960,
A GTX 1060.
1060. Okay.
Down.
So the minimum requirements for Granblue Fantasy Relink, which is for 1080p 30 FPS at standard quality, is the same GPU that will be good for 4K 60 ultra settings on Prince of Persia. Completely different games. Understandable that this would be more demanding, but just very, very funny considering the close proximity to the specs being announced.
Then the recommended requirements are probably the closest to like what the PS5 version is running. So the processor, requirements there are i7 8700 for the Intel, and then for AMD it's the Ryzen 5 3600. For graphics, there it's the RTX 2080, and then for AMD it's the RX 6700 XT, and that's for capable of 1080p 60 FPS when graphics are set to ultra.
Which
They say the recommended requirements.
sounds weird, but two things to keep in mind. One, both those GPUs are roughly equivalent to a PS5. A 6700 XT is a bit stronger, but the actual equivalent AMD GPU, the 6700 non-XT, is very, very uncommon. I would not expect most developers to, especially side games, because this is their first, like, besides, like, Little Noah, which was a much smaller scale game, which can run on anything. This is the first, like, proper, like, AAA development that they're doing, so obviously they're not going to have a full, like, sort of, like, pipeline to test as many different PC like hardware as possible. But yeah, this is roughly equivalent to a PS5, as close as you can get on a PC. And the PS5 version's performance mode is 1080p 60 FPS. Probably not at Ultra, because I did, and I guess we'll talk about it in a bit, I did get a chance to play the 1.0 version of the game on PS5 during the TGA week, and the graphics are definitely lower in performance mode than quality mode, so this is roughly equivalent. This is about what you would expect, considering what you're getting on PS5.
Okay, and then now here's where we get a little nutty. So, optimal requirements. Here's another one beyond recommended. Optimal requirements to play at 2160p, 30 FPS, and graphics are set to ultra. Processor still the same. When it comes to graphics cards, they are recommending for the optimal requirements a GeForce RTX 4070, and then for an AMD it's a Radeon RX 7900 XTX.
Yeah.
So and this is what it's kind of weird at first. Then but when you start factoring, it's like maybe they're gonna add ray tracing to the PC version.
Yeah, there's like three things that I think of when I see these optimal requirements. One, I don't think the quality mode on PS5 is actually 4K. I think it's probably internally 1440p and then being upscaled to 4K. That would be my guess, especially considering performance mode is only 1080p 60. So that roughly would make sense if it was actually internally like 1440p or something. Also, yeah, they're either using ray tracing in the ultra setting preset, but I don't think that is the main thing that's going on here, because like if we look at the recommended requirements, they're also using ultra, and the 6700 XT is not that far off from a 2080, so I don't think ray tracing would necessarily be the big differentiator. It'll be so like, if I was going to guess what would be the more likely to be equivalent AMD GPU, it would be a 7800 XT or a 6800 XT. One or the other. We'll have to see when it comes out, like how the scaling works. I don't know if any like PC focused like outlets are going to do performance testing. We might not get that sort of granularity, and I don't think YouTubers are going to have that much of an interest in doing that themselves. But yeah, a 4070 for only 4K 30 seems a bit low, but a 7900 XTX for 4K 30 is absolutely, unless there is something completely and utterly wrong with the optimization on the AMD side, which, looking at the minimum and mid requirements and the fact that the game is officially supported on Steam Deck. They told me that when I was at the preview event last month, and they said that they have given the platform special attention. So it's like, I'm gonna say it. I would be very surprised if the 7900 XTX isn't much closer to 4K 60, because that would be what I would expect looking at the rest of the requirements and knowing how much more powerful a 7900 XTX is compared to a 4070 in the vast majority of workloads. So I'm not too worried about it yet. Obviously, I want to test. I'm not up on the docket to review this. Hopefully, Cygame sends multiple codes. I would love to be able to do guides for one thing, but also to be able to take a closer look at the PC performance and see if I can give some folks a better idea of what to expect. Because minimum recommended,
we don't know if they even have like review codes for the PC version. Hopefully, they do. Hopefully they do. But like But if I was a betting man, I have a sneaking suspicion they're only going to offer review codes for the console version, because that's the version that's the only version they've ever shown of this game. We've never seen the PC version of this game. So
they did technically have Granblue versus Rising PC codes. So I mean,
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I'm excited for this. I know like Josh is excited for this. Yeah. I know that Chao's excited for the PS5.
Code for the goodies for the main game.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know about the actual RPG thing, but you know.
but yeah. But you understand, Chao. If you want to play with us, you're going to have to buy the PC version, because unfortunately, crossplay is only for the PS4 and PS5 versions of the game, not between PC and PlayStation.
I already told Josh I was gonna double dip. Okay.
All right. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I did also have a chance to play the the version of the game that, as far as I can tell, is printed on the PS5 disc. Obviously, there's going to be like some sort. I'm sure there's going to be some sort of day one patch. There always is for games like this. But yeah, I wrote up some thoughts there. Not going to really go into it just because I know that Josh also did a preview for it. Like, was that August or was that September?
Somewhere around there. One or the
August,
other.
September. And I also had already written a preview like when I played it at Anime Expo. So obviously we have had multiple chances to demo this game now. And obviously,
I mean, and like for people who have PlayStations as well, they can try it out for themselves this month with the demo.
Yeah. But yeah. I'm excited for this. Very excited. I hope they send out code soon. I hope I get my hands on one. But yeah.
So next up, pretty interesting news out of nowhere here. Earlier this year, Shiravune, or Shiravune, I forgot how they announced it. They announced that they were localizing the 3 Dungeon Crawler RPGs in the Dungeon Travelers franchise, which is Dungeon Travelers 2 Art 2 in Another World, and then the 2 Dungeon Travelers 2 games, the Dungeon Travelers 2 and Dungeon Travelers 2-2. At their initial announcement, they announced that they weren't coming to Steam. They weren't even going to come to like a popular outlet on the PC. They were coming to only like Jorin, and I forgot if there's another one.
Nope, only Jorin for now. Like pretty much every Shiravune tweet where they announce a game coming to Steam, people will be like, "Where's Dungeon Travelers?" Because like Manga Gamer and Jast USA has outright said that they would be perfectly fine with selling Dungeon Travelers 2 and 2-2 on their storefront. But yeah, it's like, regardless of how you feel about 2 and 2-2, which completely understandable. It's like there's stuff in those games that I don't feel fully comfortable with, and like I would not blame anyone for not wanting to engage with. I do feel terrible for Shiravune just because like both of those games came out on console. Dungeon Travelers 2 was rated by the ESRB. You could buy it at Walmart on a store shelf. It's one of those things where it's like we knew that these games were barred from a Steam release in like 2021 even. Like not 2021, sorry, 2022 even. It's just it took a while until they officially announced it themselves.
Anyways, I don't know if we've buried the lead here, but they just announced that so 2 of the games came out. Now the 3rd game to release, which is actually the first game in the series, which is Dungeon Travelers 2 Heart 2, is getting a Steam release, as well as Jorin. So that game, verified, approved for Steam, coming out on February 15th, right in the middle of an empty month.
Steam works in mysterious ways.
The weird thing about like the Dungeon Travelers 2 one also is that like, I know people would be upset at this, but the version that they released on Jorin is the English Vita version, which was censored slightly. Like they didn't uncensor it. It's the same version. They said so. And it's like, even that is still not approved for Steam. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like regardless of how you feel about like the games themselves, it's been an ongoing thing, and there's been developers that have spoken out about how there is a very much a weird sort of bias with at least someone or multiple people within Steam, where it's like very inconsistent about what will get accepted onto the platform. And because there's no real way to kind of like appeal those decisions, sometimes like developers are just shit out of luck, like Shiravune here. I don't think I've mentioned this in publicly, but I feel especially bad about it because I actually like had a conversation with Robert over at Shiravune like around the time I finished Galeria, and he was talking about like dungeon RPGs he had played, and I mentioned, hey, you guys should try and get Dungeon Travelers 2 on PC. Oh man, I feel bad.
Yeah, well, at least one of them is coming out of on Steam. So,
yeah.
I mean,
hopefully it feels wrong to have half the collection though.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how this even works. I mean, I got Steam promoting porn on like the big sale that they had like 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It's just it's inconsistent.
Yeah. Very weird. Um, Next up, we have an end of service announcement. Everyone loves end of service announcements. There's the end of service announcement for DanMachi Memoria Freeze. They'll be shutting down outside Japan on February 28th.
Is that the
Sorry, I
one
only
that
refer to the
Crunchyroll
series by
fucked up?
its English name.
Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon? Question mark. Familiar
Yes.
myth. Colon
Yeah.
Memoria Freeze.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
I did watch the show. I do like the first season, and after that, I just kind of stopped following it.
I
Did
think I saw
they-
recently they came out with I think like a 4th season, or they announced it. Like I didn't realize it
Yeah.
was still going.
What's it?
So,
Wasn't this-
what I believe they split up the 4th season into 2 parts, which is like a split core. So the first
Right.
core, and then they there's another core, and then they continued it, and then I think they announced like a 5th season, I believe.
Okay.
So it's ongoing as far as the anime adaptation is concerned.
Because I was thinking of this
Yeah.
as like this is an anime from 10 years ago, and it's like, well, maybe, but also still going.
Yeah. So 2 things about this. First off, with all of these like mobile game closures, I'm used to seeing it happen for a game that's like maybe a year old. I was shocked to see that this came out like 6 years ago. And then I remembered, wasn't this like the first like Crunchyroll like mobile game that had a lot of controversies because of like miscommunication about like what was in the game and not?
There
Or
was
something
that,
like that.
and
Yeah.
the other thing was
I-
like, this weird censorship thing. They say they weren't going to censor the game, and then when they released it, they completely censored it.
I believe like it's kind of we're working off of like outdated information on like artificial entry on the site, but I believe this game also like switched hands from Crunchyroll back to like the original developer into like who's running the service. So I think at a certain point the developer got the right to like run their game from Crunchyroll. So like, hey, we'll do it ourselves because maybe they were unsatisfied how Crunchyroll was running it. I think that's.
I hope nobody uses Crunchyroll for the gacha games. I'm still not going to forgive them for the Princess Connect treatment.
Yeah. So anyway, like the affected regions for this shutting down is U.S., Europe, Taiwan, and South Korea. Been running, about 6 years. So that's a pretty decent run for a game these days. A lot of games don't even make it through their first year. So yeah, that's another one that there was a lot of end of service announcements for games last month. That's usually around the time for like we don't want to run this game anymore. So we didn't list everything down. That was one of the things we listed down here. But there was a lot of games that announced end of service last month.
I think I just put it here because it was February. That's kind of where we're at.
The gacha market is wild in the last month. It's like with the Chinese trying to ban gacha laws, but then they backtrack because like $80 billion in the stock market was gone.
Yeah, it was a wild ride in the mobile sector these past few weeks.
Yeah.
The Fate New Year's project, which usually happens right at the tail end of the year in Japan, leading up to their new year, happened. Some of the things that happened, they showed off a new trailer for the Witch on the Holy Night anime film, being done by UFO Table. Looks really really nice. They showed off some things for the mobile game, Fate Grand Order. One of the things they announced was the first DLC for Fate Samurai Remnant, coming out in February 2024. Once again, we love February this year. There's DLC 1, Records Fragment, KN Command Championship, and this seems to be a Gilgamesh focused DLC where he's holding some tournament. The specifics on what's happening in this DLC is not really, they didn't really show anything in terms of like there's going to be new characters or new stuff. All we knew it's like it's new content, but we don't exactly know the specifics of it, and it's coming out in February because we know nothing's going on in February. And yeah, and then
they did say it's the next Steven Slayer.
They also showed off that like as part of the season passes, the first of 3 DLC coming for Fate Samurai Remnant. So yeah, that's all we know. Other than that, we mentioned it earlier, but Rise of the Ronin from Team Ninja, being published by Sony, that is coming out on March 22nd, 2024, exclusively for the PlayStation 5 for now.
Obviously, no other game is releasing that day, right?
I think
No.
actually there is one other game releasing. It's called The Legend of Legacy HD Remastered.
Oh
No. I forgot. Right. Princess Peach Showtime. That's coming out that day.
That's true.
Is it
Yeah,
really? I
but-
actually didn't know that. If that's true,
No,
or if
not
that's a
either.
lie, or is that a joke? I don't know.
No, it's true. It's true.
Okay, Legend of Legacy is also coming out on that day. That was my original joke.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're all. Oh, I am really interested in seeing how this shapes up. I just know it's a very busy day, release
Yes.
day. Dragon's Dogma 2. If people didn't
Yeah.
pick up on the joke. I
Why
and
do I get the feeling somebody's going to try and start like a Barbenheimer thing with Princess Peach
Oh,
and like either
God.
Rise of the
Oh.
Ronin or Dragon's Dogma?
Come on. We don't need more crossovers. It's okay. Let things exist in perpetuity by themselves. Another unexpected thing coming out this first quarter of 2024. Keizo wants in on the action. Astelira Revision developer Keizo and publisher Whisper Games announced that Astelibra Gaiden, The Cave of Phantom Mist, is coming out on Steam quarter 1, 2024. Astelibra Revision also came out on Switch late last year. I don't know if they announced if this Cave of Phantom Mist is also coming out on Switch day and date, or if that'll be coming.
I think
at
it's
a later
later.
time for
I think this is
Switch.
just PC for now.
Yeah. They Keizo mentioned that this is not just like originally the Cave of Phantom Mist. This DLC, which focuses on the Baker's daughter, was released as sort of like a mini episode DLC for the very, very like original version of Asta Libra. That was like its own very small thing. This has been expanded into like its own like separate like fully featured DLC. We don't know exactly how long this will take, but we're expecting a good handful of hours minimum from this Cave of Phantom Mist DLC. So,
I play a little bit. It's a very different game.
Keizo has been showing clips on his Twitter on like things he's been developing for this DLC. So we'll see exactly how this shapes up. Like the initial screenshots of this, obviously has a new playable character, has like their own pet following them around. There's this like style system that's being added to the game that seems to be changing up gameplay depending on like changing styles. I don't know, like the screenshot says swordswoman style and like have swords weight, for
I think
example. And they're
I think it's
different.
good whenever these expansions have like a little twist on the gameplay. I
Yeah.
think it makes it fresh and kind of unique and interesting.
From
Yeah.
the free version that I tried, it's like a roguelike sort of. You basically go to the Cave of the Phantom Mist, and then you level up over there, and you get to keep your force elements, but when you go back to town, you restart back to level 1. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different on how you approach things.
Yeah.
And she also gets to use magic while the main character has possession, right, in the
Right.
Libra. So it's like she directly would shoot a fireball instead of, so it's a completely different.
So yeah.
And by the way, he did mention that they expected, or Whisper Games specifically, they're expecting about 20 hours of gameplay.
20 hours, okay. Holy shit.
They never retweeted our review. I feel like they never know that we wrote one.
No, they like us. Don't worry. They'll be fine.
Yeah, it's not like we got an exclusive interview or anything.
Yeah. It's not like we got like exclusive details, preliminary details that there's a Switch version of development and that this DLC was also development. But yeah, we don't have an exact release date. We just know it's coming out first quarter, so anytime between now and March. And there's no games coming out in the first 3 months of the year. So
Yeah.
thank you, Keizo and Whisper Games for filling up
an empty quarter.
Yes.
Don't forget, even January isn't safe. The end of the month, sure, you got like a dragon, but also like there's a couple of like really good looking Metroidvanias coming out in the next week.
Yeah, Momodora's this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we also got a release date for SaGa Emerald Beyond that was announced in December, and that is coming out April 25th, 2024.
Nothing else coming out
around the
that
world.
week.
Uh-huh.
Nothing at all.
That's releasing for PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC and mobile devices.
I
No,
I feel
heard-
like even more than any of the other like games like batting for each other's like audiences like in the first half of this year. The group of people that would be interested in Eiyuden Chronicles and the group of people that would be interested in SaGa Emerald Beyond, I feel like the overlap there is almost a circle.
Yeah.
So on its face, they announced the release date, and that's good. They released character trailers for some of the playable characters, the Sunanori Mido and the Witch Ameya. Then they released a separate, like, gigantic press packet on the Square Enix press release that goes super deep into detail about Mido's story and Ameya's story, down to like the Kagutsu, like the puppets that aid Mido in it, and like they detail exactly, like, they have their own character. Each of these puppets, they have like their own backstory. They go super deep into detail, and I highly recommend people who are like interested in this new saga to like go read up on that on like the headline I put is like it details party members, battle system mechanics, races, and a ton of brand new information, because we get like on top of like these super detailed descriptions of like the party members on each of their routes for Ameya and Mido. They also go deep into like the battle system and like all the enhancements from what's new in this entry. So like for example, there's like different races
Right.
in this entry, and this has been done before in the Saga series, where like if you're human, you have like you can equip this many you have this amount of weapon slots, and you can equip like gear. If you're Kagutsu, you don't learn skills normally, you copy them from Mido, from
And
enemies.
then like robots in other games, they're like their attacks are more based on like what they have equipped.
Yeah.
They all work a little different.
And then like you have the monster race, and they can't equip different equipments, because like cats, they have their cat claws. That's it. That's
Yeah.
all they don't be able to sort of
Have they
anything.
said if this game has monster like evolution?
I don't know about evolution, but there's like monster gear where you can absorb from fallen monsters.
Oh, that's Saga 2 for sure.
Yeah.
In those games, it was very obtuse, where it's like you have your monster eat the flesh of another monster, and sometimes it would get better, and sometimes it get worse.
They can draw out skills from like defeated monsters, and
Yeah.
they can use text from
So
them.
it's similar vibe. Okay.
Yeah, then they detail, how single-handed blades work. That's the only like weapon type that they've shown off so far. Obviously, we other weapon types that they'll detail down the line. They detailed how magic works. They detailed how techs work, and like additional techs, interrupts, counterattacks.
Yeah.
All the good saga shit,
Well, actually,
but
a lot of that. Well, I guess a lot of those
Mhm.
like counterattack tech stuff didn't really get introduced. I guess
No.
Saga Scarlet Grace had them.
Scarlet Grace. Yeah.
And Minstrel Song had a bit counters and whatnot. But yeah, that Scarlet Grace battle system, of course, we all think is excellent, and like this seems to be basically, taking that and adjusting it a bit. So
I'm very, very, very excited. Like after doing the news post on this and reading up all of this, I'm like, holy shit.
as a side note, I have a friend. He actually writes for RPG Fan,
Mhm.
and he's actually been seeing all of like the excitement for this game from me and us, as well as other people who are fans of the franchise. So he started playing some Saga games, and he was playing Romancing Saga 2, and it's very heartwarming. I don't know if that's the right word. Like one of his first things he said about Romancing Saga 2 is, "This is hard for me to get into," and then like a week later, literally he's like, "I'm a true Saga fan now. I can't stop thinking about this."
Yeah.
Like that character arc.
I love some of the descriptions they give the characters here, because like some of like the characters that can join the retinue, they detail here. One of them is like for Wilma, the Yellow Witch. You're like, who's this character? Let me go read up on her description. And then here's the description: a yellow witch from the witchdom Potra. Wilma has a very placid demeanor, but deep down, she is deeply worried that she may be a golem. She has a very idiosyncratic way of speaking, and that's her character description.
What if I am actually not a human being, but I'm just like an automaton?
Golem. You know
You
what?
never
Same,
know.
actually. That's a very normal worry to have. Deep down, I might be a golem.
I
Oh,
also
no.
saw they also mentioned we mentioned this in the announcement because we saw it. Like Matcha is there from
Yes.
Scarlet Grace, and we're like,
Yep.
she's a god. What's she doing here? And it even says like in her actual official introduction, like Matcha is a god in other like universes, but here she's lost a bit of her power. Like, okay, so like she's just here like as a sub god person thing now.
Uh, so yeah, that's a lot of good character descriptions. Very good. I can't wait. I can't wait. So yeah, April, late April. Good stuff. Another release date that was shared in December. This was during the Game Awards. Is for Black Myth Wukong from Game Science. That is launching on August 20th, 2024 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. They shared a new trailer as well. And yeah, that's been long in development. So
This
I'm
one's
just
gonna get
glad
played.
it's real and
I
just
guess.
not some epic trailer, and you're like, oh, where's the game? And just glad
I mean,
it's finally.
yeah, they've shown a lot of gameplay for this, like for like IGN and stuff. Like they've done a lot of IGN exclusive stuff for this game. So yeah, they've shown off a lot of gameplay for this already. So you have a good idea of how this will like what the battle system is like, for example. So that'll be something to look forward to at the second half of 2024.
I think they were smart. They were releasing on a not so crowded month.
It's not
Yes.
February or March, so good on them.
Unless there's a surprise Nintendo Direct somewhere, and there will be like this huge spam of RPGs right around June to July.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, there's usually a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, usually there's one in January, February.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
and anytime now, and then they'll be like, maybe they'll be like, Switch
no,
2's not real.
You know what? Yeah, it's
Nintendo's going to come out and they're going to be like, the Thousand Year Door remake launches on February 22nd.
Right now, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it got rated by the ESRB, so it's like it could be any moment now. Like they could shadow drop it. We know that because of what they did with fucking Metroid Prime Remastered. So
Yeah, that's right. Hold the fact. We have Outward Definitive Edition coming for Switch sometime this year. So, they just gave a release year for this. So yes, Outward Definitive Edition.
This is a survival
Switch.
RPG, indie RPG from a Canadian studio. Bryan played it. He liked it quite a bit. It's got a co-op mode that's pretty cool. I wish I actually played it.
It's something you can play like completely in co-op, and that's kind of fun. Drop in, drop out.
I forgot what the was it only with one other person or I forgot exactly the
Just-
player.
I think it's just two people.
Okay. Because I'm getting it mixed up with like another like survival action RPG that like supports like a lot of people, but I forgot what the name of it was. This is a weird one. Deck 13 and Focus Entertainment. They released Atlas Fallen last year, and
Last
Bryan, Bryan, Adam, and I played it. And we're like, it's not really. We're kind of very mixed on it. They announced that they're launching quote unquote ambitious update sometime this year. And this update is meant to bring new mechanics, additional essence stones, additional level, a heavily reworked intro, and more. Adam, this is weird.
Yeah, so one of the things I said in my review, and other people said this as well, is Atlas Fallen's like opening sections. It takes about an hour or two. Is very weird and very it's like the bad kind of weird. It's sometimes weird is good, but not in this case. It's a very strange opening. You get like a tutorial. You're stuck in like a weird cloudy sandy desert caravan. You don't have a map. You don't really have it's like very limited. You don't have like your full mechanics yet. You're not really in the swing of the real game, and it just takes too long to actually get to like, okay, here's what the game is. And it's not especially interesting from a story perspective. It's a little bit disjointed. You don't know what's going on. It's just very strange. In my review, I believe I called it crummy. And like the fact that they said we're going to heavily rework the intro is like, that makes sense because it seems like a lot of people didn't really care for how this is introduced. But this came out like 6 months ago. It's like, this is a little late.
Like I don't know if like it's good on them for like going back and
Yeah.
enhancing it and like making it better, but it's just like can this find like a new crowd of people to like pick it up and like play it? I feel like it's kind of run its course, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, so I played the Surge games, and I thought both of those games were like good, not great. They were fine. I was actually a little bit disappointed in Surge 2. I kind of was hoping for a bigger jump from Surge 1. But like this game like is even more of a disappointment to me. Like, okay, I'm not really on the Deck 13 train anymore. Like whatever they play next, I wasn't like super excited for Atlas Fallen, but I was interested enough, and now it's just kind of like
It's
I've
like
been disappointed twice in a row.
It's just like this weird thing, right? Because like you don't want them to do the Surge 3, you don't want them to do something
No.
like like you want them to do something cool and different. And like they did something different,
Right.
but not necessarily cool.
I don't know if the future of Forspoken likes has is very bright.
So I don't know what they do from here. That's kind of a tough call because I would not do an Atlas Fallen 2. I don't
No.
think that should not be
No.
in the cards. But I don't know if you should do a Surge 3 either.
Right.
So tough call.
By the way, we don't
Yeah.
have this listed on our document here, but I just want to mention there's also an unexpected update from Frontier Entertainment for Front Mission 1 Remake.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's getting like a hot seat co-op mode, which is like old school, or hot seat multiplayer, which hot seat multiplayer is like old school, like players taking turns. So it's like not really multiplayer. Like it's like this weird like score attack system with like new missions and maps and characters, and that's interesting because like it's like technically new front mission content, but not from like in a free update coming to the remake. It's kind of strange. It's interesting but strange.
Yeah, I guess like for the things that we didn't mark listed on the doc. Like another thing that this is very recent news. They unveiled the opening movie for Persona 3 Reload.
Right.
So the new song, obviously new visuals. That's not Burn My Dread.
You mean burn my bread?
So at first I was mixed on this. I was like, I don't know if it really feels, but the more I listen and see this opening movie, the more I kind of dig it. It's a really nice it's a nice it's an opening movie that's made really if it was like, hey, we're gonna remake this opening. What if like we made this opening for people who already kind of know Persona 3 and God knows what's going on in it? So there's a lot of nice visual motifs going on in this.
Yeah.
For example, like there's like a tram railway scene where it has Akihiro looking at Shinji, who's looking at Ken, and Ken looking back at Akihiro, and it goes to like a darker tone with
Yeah.
Akihiro's. That's a really nice like visual, like very subtle thing. Like if you don't know what's going on, it's fine. But for people who know like the dynamic between those three, it's a really
Right.
cool. So I could, the more I look at it, I was like, oh, it's actually really cool. So yeah, I like it. They also showed off, some new stuff for Persona 3 Reloaded. Aegis, Ken, Koromaru, Shinjiro, Velvet Room, town activities. So your usual Persona 3 Reload drop. And like, people have been talking about this, and like I have to admit, like, yes, they're releasing a lot of information for Persona 3 Reload, but the nice thing is like everyone fucking knows that Persona 3 Reload exists and it's coming out. And it compares it like Granblue Fantasy Relink, where like they're kind of doing not enough to promote the game. Like a lot of people still don't know that this game is coming out.
You know, I was talking to Neo Seeker. It's like, hey, do you have anybody covering that game? And there's like, no. In fact, we never even heard of it.
Yeah.
And it's wild because it's like it's not like they aren't trying to market Granblue. They are, because like obviously like we can attest to it. We've gone to like multiple press events in the last 6 months. I played it at Anime Expo. They've been trying to talk about it as much as they can, but for whatever reason, it's just not sticking. I don't know why.
They need to be obnoxious, like release like character trailers for each of the fucking characters.
But they just released information about
character trailers, like actual like, hey, here's the Grant trailer, here's the Rosetta trailer, here's the EO trailer,
one for each
here's
of the
Percival trailer,
one for each of the Dragon Knight,
or the Dragon Knight, boys. It's not enough to like say, hey, here's like our theme song trailer and our boss, because like they need to be more obnoxious and like be like release like fucking press packets, like here detail like fucking into a science. Because that's
Sega
what they've done
Atlas
for, like,
is very good at obnoxious trailer releases. If you were to
Yeah.
count how many Persona Reload trailers there are, there's like 20.
Also, the thing I love about the Persona 3 Reload marketing is that, yeah, they're being obnoxious about it, but there's a reason, because they're literally releasing new details every, like, what is it, new moon? Yeah, it's like, or full moon. Yeah, it's like,
Now, what's
It's a
one thing
side
that
game
this is sort of an aside, but Atlas had like a sort of similar philosophy for Soul Hackers 2 a couple years ago, and that didn't seem to work out.
Yeah, that didn't seem to. I mean, like, I think people were aware it existed, but like they weren't like. But Soul Hackers is like not really
More
a
niche,
beloved
for
thing.
sure.
Yeah, it's a niche, but people knew like it was coming.
also, I guess to kind of stress the difference between like Sega Atlas's like marketing and like side games. Sega Atlas had a full like launch party for ports of Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden to consoles in downtown LA. They just had a straight up launch party open to the public, a big thing for ports of games from the PSP and Vita last year.
Yeah. So it's I feel a little bit bad for Cygus on that front. Like, I'm sure Granblue Relink's going to be really cool. I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to be really cool, but they really need to promote it more, man.
I was gonna ask. It's like, okay, so Exceed is still doing like the physical copies for the Western market, right?
Yeah.
Do
They're,
they
like,
have
doing
any
the,
like task of doing like promotions for them? You know, as like the Western branch kind of thing. Maybe do they have any hand on that?
So this is where it's sort of like there's a little bit of like crossing streams. The PR agency that's doing side games is One PR, which is actually the same PR agency that does Exceed Marvelous stuff. So it's like, in a way, it's sort of the same people, but in a way, it's not, because it's not Exceed. It probably might be different staff, but like the same PR agency. But yeah, that was my point. It's like the same PR agency, but it's not actually Exceed. And I think Exceed is more just like doing physical distribution more than like, I don't know if they're actually considered the publisher, because usually the publisher and the distributor are the same person or the same group, but sometimes they are actually separate, where you have like a publisher and a distributor are two separate entities. That might be the case here.
I know that for NIS America, I'm not sure if it's still the case, but I know for a while there, NIS America's distributor was actually Sega Atlas.
Right. Yes. Yep.
Yeah, and like they also do the same thing like Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, where like they released a fuck ton of information every fucking time for this game, and released previews and stuff. Like it's hard to deny that like people know that Like a Dragon Infinite is going to come out at the end of this month, undeniably so, because they always have a lot of news to share on that. And like they did a similar thing like CI Games did for Lords of the Fallen last year, where you knew that game was coming out. We don't know if it was going to be good or not, but you knew that game was coming out because they released a fuck ton of trailers and at every gaming event, even if there's like nothing, if it's like just a week where they're like nothing was happening. It's like, here's a new trailer for Lords of the Fallen. It's like, yep, that sure is your 30th trailer, but good on you. You're promoting it.
And I mean, it worked out for them because it's like been a success. Yeah.
On that note, there was actually a recent trademark from CI Games in Poland for Death of the Fallen.
Ooh. Damn.
So people are making the assumption, which I think is a safe assumption, that this is a follow-up to Lords of the Fallen. So take that.
Yeah, and considering how quickly, like, once the project changed hands, and I assume most like probably restarted, that they were able to get Lords of the Fallen. I'm just gonna call it 2. I'm just gonna call it 2. The fact they got it out in essentially like 3 years is really, really impressive. Really impressive for the scope of that game and whatnot.
So hopefully, like I think at this point, like I think the path for Relink is word of mouth.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's really good, and a lot of people get to talking about how good it is. Hopefully that'll seep into the mainstream. If it turns out to be really awesome. Because I want to cheer for this game. I want it to do well. I don't know if it will do well. I don't know if it'll be a good game. I want to believe it will. Hopefully
they can invest in different avenues instead of just their mobile market.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. And another thing that's not on the document that's very recent is CD Projekt Red updated their sales for Phantom Liberty. They have now sold over 5 million copies in 2023 to round out 2023. Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. So good on them. Hell of an expansion that I get.
But
And that did very well.
more
They
than
have
Final Fantasy
life-
16.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just saying.
I mean, that's not wrong. You're not wrong. And then to finally, our final news story to catch up from December to now. Bushiroad recently held a really long live stream. It was like a 5-hour live stream because it was like for a lot of their merch, not just video games. But one of the video games that they promoted was Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation Quest of Memories. They have given a release window for that game, which is summer 2024, and have actually shown a new trailer that actually showed gameplay of like what that game is going to be. That's going to be a first-person dungeon crawler.
Which
sort of
Landcars
like-
has done before. So
Yeah. Yes. So, this is presumably going to get an English release because they showed off an English trailer for this game that's like English title and like put English subs over it. And all their other games are going to have an English release. So they have like the Goblin Slayer one, which looks like a
And-
title strategy.
and Josh is super excited for the Revu and Starlight one.
I am excited because I love Review Starlight. So yes,
That's just a visual novel, though.
yeah, I don't care. I'm getting it.
Josh never plays non-RPGs.
That's true. Never.
Just tell me if there's a game where I could play as the giraffe as the main.
I mean, the draft's probably going to be in there, so So yes, I'm excited for the review start. They have a Macross one that's like a shmup.
One
They
where they
announced-
crossed out Lin
There's
Min
also
Min on the cover.
the Hunter x Hunter
Fighting game.
There was already sort of pre-announced, but they kind of like formally announced the fighting game.
Showing
Right.
some footage and the fact that's obviously budget and it looks like a 3v3 fighter. It's like just what was it already confirmed to be 3v3 or
No, we
I think people are just making the assumption.
We knew that before they showed off that trailer, we knew that it was going to be by aiding and it was going to be a fighting game. That's all.
I saw a handful of people say this trailer has GameCube energy.
It does. I'll be honest. I saw those and I was like, when people say it's GameCube, it's like, you know what? They're not wrong.
Which I think Aiming had like a Naruto GameCube fighting game, maybe, or some sort of game. Let me check. So I think they kind of maybe manifested from that.
I love their Fate fighting game that they made on the PS2 and the PSP. Well, ported to the PSP. Is it Fate?
Unlimited Code.
Unlimited Code, yeah. That is such a good fighting game in my opinion.
Bushiroad also announced a new, since we were talking about earlier, they announced a new DanMachi game as well, for console. Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? Familiar myth - full end of water and light. And that they just said it's coming to console. That's it. No developer, no genre, no platforms, no release. They also announced like 4 new visual novel projects that they started. So Bushiroad is taking this seriously. Okay, they are really fucking putting they have announced and are pushing a lot of things to like the console market.
They gotta recoup their money from
For-
your Sekai, okay?
Yeah, usually for Switch and or PC, primarily for these platforms. Though the Mushoku Tensei one is coming to PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC sometime this summer. So yeah. So if you're looking for anime licensed games that hopefully will be good, we'll see. The first one of them, I forgot when the Macross one is coming out, but for the Goblin Slayer one is coming out middle of February. Another
famously
February
empty
release.
month.
Another February release. Yeah, I do want to check that. I'm not gonna like review, but I just want to like check it out for like educational purposes because I'm just kind of interested to seeing how it'll go. I don't know.
Can you check out Superman 64 for education purposes?
I was a kid, dude. Look, what the fuck?
You can do it now.
I mean,
Yeah, let me just pull out the 64. My copy
yeah,
of Superman.
yeah. On my 64, I had the first Super Smash Brothers, Hey You Pikachu, Pokemon Stadium, and Legend of Zelda.
Good list.
So yeah, that covers a good chunk of what we missed from December up until now. It's not absolutely everything, but that's okay. And yeah, that's thank you, Bryan, for being able to make it, man. It's nice to have you on.
Yep. It wanted to make an appearance at least, even though I knew I was going to be late. So no, thank you
Okay.
for hosting, and thank you to everyone else for holding to it, because I know it's been like over a month since we last over a month, just about exactly a month.
We're back on the grind.
Yep. So back to it. So I guess next week, no new releases, but we'll probably talk a little bit more in depth about the games we've been playing since December.
Well, wait a second. There will be that new Momodora, which I'm definitely playing.
Oh yeah,
So.
gotcha. So maybe we'll lead off with that. We'll see.
Yeah.
And yeah,
You can find us on rpgsite.net if you want to visit our official site where we have all our deliberations for the Game of the Year stuff and the reader poll, anticipated game list for this year. It's a fairly short list. Okay, there's nothing coming out. You can find us on Twitter at rpgsite. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/rpgsite.net, on YouTube via youtube.com/rpgsite.net, where you can actually find our full 8-hour deliberations just uploaded by Adam earlier before something crashed with his internet connection, but was able to fully upload it before that. So yeah, you can find that whole podcast up on our YouTube. That's like probably our longest deliberations yet.
I think it is. We
Yeah.
cut two categories, and we somehow ended up going longer.
We cut, but we had more staff to with us.
Hey, listeners, you know how we've been spending like 75% of this podcast complaining about how stacked this year is for RPGs? That is a literary device that we like to call foreshadowing.
Oh no. 10 hours Game of the Year.
Don't say it. Don't say it. We're not going to think about Game of the Year this year. I don't want to think about it. It doesn't exist to me. Therefore, it will not.
and Adam, I don't know if you made this, but I like the new banner for the YouTube.
Oh yeah, I did that.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks.
Did our Twitter get updated?
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you, Adam. You can find us on your favorite podcast app via the Tetracast. Just search us up there. You can find us. I believe our deliberations are also on the same Tetracast RSS feed. Right?
Yes, I forgot to put them on the RSS feed, so that means they didn't show up on like podcast services right away. With all the other stuff, getting everything up, I just forgot to literally press a few buttons to get that up, but it should be up now.
It's fine. But as always, thank you. If you're on our Discord, thank you for keeping us on our toes. So like, if you don't see something, you just at us and be like, "Hey, I don't see it here." It's like, "Oh, okay. We'll get it sorted out." So you can find us on discord.gg/RPG site. So if you have any comments for us, good or bad, thank you for letting us know. It seems to be a good amount of people actually have been listening to that deliberation. It's 8 hours, and people are like, I'm at like hour 6 of 8. I'm almost there. I'm like, holy shit! Thank you, thank you for listening to us ramble for many, many hours. It was a very trying day for all of us, and for some people, even more trying because of their time zone. Of course, big shout out to the staff, international staff, for making that. So some people in Australia, one at the Philippines, one on Japan. It's an international team, So good on them for
Props to them.
Jesus. And
especially
of course,
Josh too. I think Josh too stayed up till like 6 a.m.
Yeah, Josh too, and Paige and Junior. They were at some devilish hours. Of course, Alex over in Britain, obviously had some shit as well because he has a family. So yeah. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who joined us on that those deliberations. Thank you for listening. If you're listening to them or plan to listen to them, don't do it all in one go. Just do it in chunks. Like some of my friends have been listening to it just like maybe an hour or two a day, like maybe listening to a category a day or something. I don't recommend doing it all in one go, but if you are, then
I mean, we did record it all in one go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But but that doesn't mean you have to listen to all of it in one go.
Yeah, and we did take a break in between, so it's like you're allowed to have a break too.
But if you're a champion, you're like, I'm going to do it all in one go. Then that's on you.
If you really want to immerse yourself in the deliberations.
So yeah, thank you, and we're going to be back at it this year. I'm going to try to have a podcast for you almost like every weekend. As if for some reason something happens and we can't record for a weekend, then that's fine. We'll let you know. elsewhere, like on our Twitter. Need to take a break, but we usually, we try to record every weekend, up until like the end of the year. So until then, thank you very much. Hope you had an awesome holiday break, and here's to a new year. Hope you have an awesome one to everyone here on staff, to everyone on staff, to our regulars here, and of course to everyone who's listening to this. May you have an awesome, happy new year to an awesome 2024. Thank you, Bryan. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, James. Thank you, Chow, and thank you, me, Josh. I'm the host for this week. Uh, yeah, thank you. That's it. That's it. This is the end of the podcast for this for our first podcast of 2024. Thank you so much. And you guys have an awesome weekend.
Talk to you later.
Can I click the stop recording button now?
Yes, you
No.
can.
No.